A bullet saved her life. Not because it hit her enemy, but because the stranger who fired it knew exactly what her ex-boyfriend had slipped into her drink. Elena Vale thought escaping Derek Holloway meant freedom. She was wrong. That night at the Sapphire Room, beneath glittering lights and false security, she nearly became another statistic, another woman who trusted the wrong man. But Lucien Moretti saw everything, and what he did next changed her life forever. Stay until the end to see how a single act of violence became the beginning of something neither of them could control. Like this video and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain came down hard that Tuesday night, turning Manhattan's streets into rivers of neon and exhaust. Elena Vale stood under the awning of the Sapphire Room, staring at the brass-handled door like it might bite her. 2 weeks. That's how long it had been since she'd walked out of Derek Holloway's apartment with nothing but a duffel bag and the clothes on her back. 14 days since she'd stopped apologizing for breathing. She pulled her coat tighter and pushed through the door. Inside, the lounge was all warm amber light and exposed brick, the kind of place where people came to pretend their lives were more sophisticated than they actually were. A jazz quartet played something smooth and forgettable in the corner. Elena chose a table near the back, away from the bar, away from the windows. Habit. Derek had trained her well. Always sit where you can see the exits, always keep your phone charged, always text him when you arrive somewhere. Except tonight, there was no one to text. She ordered a martini. Dirty. 3 olives. The bartender was young, maybe 23, with careful hands and a forgettable face. Elena watched him work, watched the way he measured each pour with mechanical precision. There was something calming about watching someone do their job well. It reminded her that competence still existed in the world, that not everything was chaos and second-guessing. Her phone buzzed. She didn't look at it. She knew who it was. Derek had been calling every day since she left, leaving voicemails that started with apologies and ended with threats. You're making a mistake. You'll never find anyone who understands you like I do. You think you're strong enough to do this alone? The martini arrived. Elena lifted it, felt the weight of the glass, the cold bite of vodka fumes. This was supposed to be a celebration. She'd landed an interview with Archer & Klein, one of the top design firms in the city, the kind of place that could turn her portfolio into an actual career instead of just a collection of freelance gigs that barely paid rent. She took a sip. The vodka burned clean. Across the room, near the bar, a man sat alone. Elena didn't notice him at first. He was the kind of presence that blended into expensive surroundings, all dark suit and darker hair, sharp cheekbones and eyes that didn't blink often enough. He nursed a glass of whiskey, neat, and watched the room with the detached interest of someone conducting surveillance. Lucien Moretti didn't come to places like the Sapphire Room for the atmosphere. He came because his business required him to be seen in certain places at certain times, maintaining the fiction that he was just another Manhattan investor with too much money and not enough conscience. Tonight, he was supposed to meet a shipping contractor who was 3 hours late and probably already dead. Lucien didn't care either way. The whiskey was good, and the lounge was warm, and outside the rain kept falling like the sky had finally given up. Then the door opened and Derek Holloway walked in. Elena saw him before he saw her. For a moment, her entire body locked up, chest tight, throat closed, fingers frozen around the stem of her martini glass. He looked exactly the same. Expensive charcoal suit, hair styled with too much product, that smile that used to make her feel special and now just made her feel sick. He scanned the room with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. Their eyes met. Derek's smile widened. He moved toward her table with the smooth gait of a predator who'd already caught his prey once and knew exactly how to do it again. Elena. His voice was warm honey over broken glass. What are the odds? She forced herself to breathe. Leave me alone, Derek. Come on, don't be like that. He pulled out the chair across from her without asking, sat down like he owned the space. I've been calling you. You haven't answered. Because I don't want to talk to you. We need to talk. His eyes were blue. She used to think they were kind. You left without giving me a chance to explain. Explain what? That you read my emails? That you tracked my phone? That you told me I was crazy every time I questioned anything you did? Derek's jaw tightened. Just for a second, the mask slipped, and Elena saw the anger underneath. Then it was gone, replaced by that wounded, misunderstood expression he'd perfected. I was worried about you. You've been different lately. Distant. I thought maybe... You thought what? That I was cheating on you? So you went through my laptop while I was asleep? I made a mistake. He reached across the table, trying to take her hand. She pulled back. Elena, please, just one drink. Let me apologize properly. After that, if you still want me to leave, I will. I promise. She should have said no, should have stood up, walked out, blocked his number for good. But something in his voice hooked into that old familiar guilt, the part of her that still remembered loving him before everything went wrong. One drink, she said. Then you leave. Derek's smile was victory. One drink. He stood and walked to the bar. Elena watched him go, hating herself for giving in. Across the room, Lucien Moretti watched too. He'd seen this dance before, the woman trying to reclaim her power, the man pretending to give it back while sharpening the knife behind his back. Lucien had no particular interest in other people's relationships. He'd built an empire on the principle of minding his own business, unless that business involved territory, money, or blood. But then he saw Derek's hand move. It was smooth, practiced. Derek stood at the bar, ordered 2 drinks, and while the bartender turned to grab a bottle of gin, Derek's right hand dipped into his jacket pocket and came out holding something small. He glanced around, a quick sweep to make sure no one was watching, then dropped it into one of the glasses. The motion took less than 3 seconds. Lucien set down his whiskey. Derek returned to Elena's table carrying 2 martinis. He set one in front of her, kept one for himself. To new beginnings, he said, raising his glass. Elena hesitated. Something felt wrong. Derek's smile was too wide, his posture too relaxed, but she was tired of being paranoid, tired of questioning every gesture and every word. Maybe he really did just want to apologize. Maybe she was overthinking everything. She reached for the glass. I wouldn't drink that. The voice came from behind her. Elena turned. The man from the bar stood 3 feet away, hands in his pockets, face utterly calm. Up close, he was younger than she'd thought. Maybe 35, with the kind of brutal elegance that came from expensive tailors and cheap violence. His eyes were dark, almost black, and they were locked on Derek with the focus of someone calculating exactly how many bones he could break before security arrived. Derek's smile faltered. Excuse me? The drink, Lucien said. Your friend here put something in it. Rohypnol, probably. Maybe GHB. Hard to tell from across the room. The air in the lounge changed. Conversations died. The jazz quartet stumbled through a note and stopped. Elena looked at Derek, then at the martini, then back at Derek. Is that true? What? No, I don't even... Derek stood up, face flushing. Who the hell are you? Lucien didn't answer. He walked to Elena's table, picked up the martini she'd almost drunk, and held it out to Derek. Prove me wrong. Drink it. I'm not drinking anything. This is insane. Drink it. The temperature in Lucien's voice dropped 20 degrees. Elena felt it in her spine, that primal recognition that the man standing beside her was dangerous in ways Derek could never understand. This wasn't posturing. This wasn't ego. This was something colder. Derek's face had gone pale. You can't just drink it, or I'll make you drink it. For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. Then Derek's hand shot out. Not for the glass, but for Elena. He grabbed her wrist, yanked her toward him. We're leaving. Elena tried to pull away. Derek's grip tightened, fingers digging into her skin hard enough to bruise. Let go. Lucien moved. One moment he was standing 3 feet away. The next, his hand was locked around Derek's throat, slamming him back against the exposed brick wall, hard enough to rattle the picture frames. Derek made a strangled sound. His hand released Elena's wrist. Lucien held him there, suspended, feet barely touching the ground. You have 2 choices, Lucien said quietly. Drink what you poisoned, or I break your neck and call it self-defense. You're crazy, Shakak. Lucien's grip tightened. Derek's face started turning red. Wait! Elena's voice cracked. Stop! Just stop! Lucien didn't look at her. This man tried to drug you. If I let him go, he'll do it to someone else. I know, She was shaking. Everything was shaking. I don't want you to kill him. Why not? The question was genuine. Lucien asked it the way someone might ask about the weather. Elena realized, with a cold stab of clarity, that this man had killed before. Maybe often. And he would do it again right now if she gave him permission. Because then I'll have to watch, she said. And I don't want that in my head. Something shifted in Lucien's expression. Not softness, nothing about him was soft, but a kind of acknowledgement. He looked at Derek, still pinned against the wall, still gasping for air. You heard her. Drink. He released Derek's throat but kept one hand fisted in his jacket. With his other hand, he picked up the martini glass and held it to Derek's lips. Open your mouth. Derek tried to twist away. Lucien slammed him back against the wall again. Open. Your mouth. The lounge was silent. 20 people watching, 20 phones recording. Derek's eyes darted around, looking for help that wasn't coming. Finally, his lips parted. Lucien poured. Derek choked, sputtered, tried to spit it out. Lucien clamped his hand over Derek's mouth and nose. Swallow. He did. When Lucien finally released him, Derek collapsed to his knees, coughing and retching. Lucien crouched beside him, pulled out a white pocket square, and wiped his hands clean. Now we wait. It took less than 3 minutes. Derek's coughing slowed. His pupils dilated. He tried to stand, stumbled, fell against a table. Someone screamed. The bartender was on the phone with 911, voice shaking as he described the situation. Derek crawled toward the door, movements uncoordinated, slurring something that might have been Elena's name. He didn't make it. His body went slack halfway across the floor, unconscious before his face hit the polished wood. Elena couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she'd just witnessed. The man she'd loved for 2 years had tried to drug her, and a complete stranger had just force-fed him his own poison. Lucien stood, adjusted his cuffs, and looked at her with those unreadable dark eyes. Are you hurt? She shook her head. Words felt impossible. Good. He picked up his coat from the bar. When the police arrive, tell them everything. Don't protect him. Men like that don't deserve protection. Wait. Elena found her voice. Who are you? Lucien paused at the door, rain hammering against the glass behind him. Someone you should probably avoid. Then he was gone. The police arrived 8 minutes later. Paramedics 12. By the time they'd loaded Derek onto a stretcher and taken Elena's statement for the 3rd time, it was past midnight. She sat wrapped in a shock blanket, watching officers bag evidence and interview witnesses. Everyone had recorded the confrontation. The footage was already spreading online, blurry cell phone videos of a man in an expensive suit forcing someone to drink from a poisoned glass. A detective named Ramirez sat down across from her. Late 40s, tired eyes, wedding ring worn smooth. You're lucky, he said. The man who intervened, you know him? No. He probably saved your life. Ramirez flipped through his notepad. The lab will confirm, but based on your ex-boyfriend's reaction, that drink was definitely drugged. If you'd consumed it... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Elena's hands wouldn't stop shaking. What happens to Derek? Hospital, then jail. We found more of the same substance in his jacket pocket. Premeditation. He's looking at attempted assault, maybe attempted rape depending on what the DA decides. He won't be bothering you again. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. Elena kept seeing Derek's face when Lucien grabbed him, that expression of genuine terror. She'd never seen him afraid before. He'd always been the one in control, the one making her feel small and stupid and wrong. The man who stopped him, Elena said. Is he in trouble? Ramirez's expression flickered. That's complicated. Why? Because we know who he is. The detective closed his notepad. Lucien Moretti. He owns half the high-end restaurants in Manhattan, couple shipping companies, some import-export businesses. Very wealthy, very connected, also very careful about keeping his name out of police reports. I don't understand. Ramirez leaned back, studying her. Miss Vale, what do you know about organized crime in New York? The question felt absurd. Nothing. I'm a graphic designer. Right. Well, here's the short version. Lucien Moretti is what we call a legacy operator. His family's been running things in certain circles for 3 generations. Restaurants, mostly. Some shipping. Nothing we can prove is illegal, but nothing that's completely clean either. He paused. He's not a good guy. But tonight, he did a good thing. That's going to make my report very interesting to write. Elena's mind was spinning. So he's... I didn't say anything, Ramirez interrupted. And if anyone asks, we never had this conversation. But you should know what kind of man you're dealing with. He's not someone you want in your life. After the police left, Elena sat alone in the empty lounge. The owner had closed early, sent everyone home. She should call someone, check her sister, a friend, anyone. But her phone felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, and her contacts list felt like a catalog of people who would say, "I told you so," about Derek. The door opened. Elena looked up, half expecting police again. It was Lucy Ann. He'd changed clothes. Black jeans, dark sweater, leather jacket beaded with rain. In the low light, he looked less like a businessman and more like exactly what the detective had implied. Dangerous. Connected. Wrong. "You shouldn't be here," Elena said. "Neither should you." He walked to her table, sat down without asking. Up close, she could see faint scars on his knuckles, the kind that came from fighting without gloves. "The police told you who I am." It wasn't a question. "They said you own restaurants." Among other things, Lucien's expression didn't change. "They probably also told you to stay away from me." Something like that. Smart advice. Elena should have felt afraid. This man had just committed assault in front of 20 witnesses and walked away without handcuffs. He was clearly connected to something illegal, something dangerous. Every rational part of her brain was screaming to leave, but she was so tired of being afraid. "Why did you help me?" she asked. Lucien was quiet for a long moment. "I had a sister once, younger than me. When she was 19, she met a man who seemed perfect, charming, successful, good family." His voice went flat. "By the time we realized what he was doing to her, it was too late. She died in a hospital 3 months after their wedding, fell down the stairs, according to the police report." Elena's chest went tight. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It was 10 years ago." But his hands had curled into fists on the table. "I see men like your ex-boyfriend. I think about her. I think about all the women who don't get saved, who drink what they're given because they want to believe people are good. So you force-fed him his own drugs." "Yes. That's psychotic." "Probably." Lucien stood. "You should go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow, file a restraining order. Change your locks. Don't answer calls from numbers you don't recognize." He walked toward the door. Elena stood up. "Wait." He turned. "Thank you," she said, "for saving me." Lucien studied her face like he was memorizing it. "You should know something else. Your ex-boyfriend, Derek Holloway. He's not just some controlling asshole. He's connected to the Volkov Syndicate, Eastern European crime family trying to expand into New York. Small-time operations mostly, but violent." Elena's blood went cold. "What?" "He's been working for them, money laundering through his investment firm. That's probably why he was so obsessed with controlling you, paranoia. He thought you'd figure it out and go to the authorities." Lucien's expression was grim. Now that he's in police custody, his bosses are going to wonder what he's told you, what you know. "I don't know anything." "Doesn't matter. They'll assume you do." He pulled out a business card, set it on the table. "That's my number. If anyone approaches you, anyone you don't know asking questions about Derek, you call me immediately." "Why would you help me?" "Because I don't like men who hurt women. And I really don't like the Volkov Syndicate operating in my city." He headed for the door again. "Go home, Elena. Lock your doors. Don't trust anyone." Then he was gone, leaving her alone with a business card and the growing realization that her life had just become infinitely more complicated. Elena made it back to her apartment at 2 in the morning. The building was quiet, just the hum of radiators and distant sirens. She climbed 4 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken again, unlocked 3 separate deadbolts Derek had insisted she install, and stepped into the tiny studio that was supposed to represent her freedom. It felt like a cage. She locked the door behind her, checked the windows, pulled the curtains closed. Her hands were still shaking. She wanted to shower, to wash away the feeling of Derek's fingers on her wrist, the memory of his dilated pupils as the drugs took effect. But she was afraid to close her eyes. afraid she'd see his face, or worse, see Lucien's hand wrapped around his throat. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Elena stared at it for 3 rings before answering. Hello? Silence. Then breathing, slow and deliberate. Who is this? Her voice cracked. The line went dead. Elena stood frozen in her dark apartment, phone clutched in her hand, and realized with absolute certainty that this was just the beginning. Outside, rain continued falling over Manhattan. And somewhere in the city, people who knew her name were making decisions about whether she was a threat worth eliminating. The phone call came again at 4 in the morning. Elena hadn't slept. She'd been sitting on her bed with all the lights on, staring at Lucien Moretti's business card like it might explode. The ringing shattered the silence. Same pattern as before. 3 rings, then her shaking hand reaching for it, then that breathing on the other end. Slow. Deliberate. Someone wanting her to know they were there. This time, she didn't say anything, just listened to the breathing until the line went dead. She called Lucien at 4:47 a.m. He answered on the first ring. No sleep in his voice, no confusion about the early hour, just that same flat calm. What happened? Someone keeps calling me. They don't say anything, just breathe. How many times? Twice? Once right after I got home, just now. She heard movement on his end, fabric rustling, a car door closing. Pack a bag. Enough for 3 days. I'm sending someone to get you. Wait, I can't just... Elena. His voice cut through her panic like a blade. The Volkov Syndicate doesn't make threatening phone calls for fun. They're confirming you're home, alone, vulnerable. In about 20 minutes, someone's going to knock on your door, and it won't be to talk. Her mouth went dry. You don't know that. I know exactly that. I've seen this play out a dozen times. A car engine started. Pack, now. My driver will be there in 8 minutes. Black Mercedes, license plate starts with 7 Victor Tango. Don't open the door for anyone else. Where are you taking me? Somewhere they won't look. He paused. You have 7 minutes now. Move. The line went dead. Elena's hands moved on autopilot. She grabbed her old duffel bag from the closet, started throwing in clothes without thinking. Jeans, sweaters, underwear, her laptop because her entire portfolio was on it, toothbrush, phone charger. She was zipping the bag when she heard footsteps in the hallway outside her apartment. Heavy footsteps. Multiple people. She froze. The footsteps stopped right outside her door. Elena held her breath, pressed herself against the wall beside the doorframe. Through the peephole, she could see 2 men, both wearing dark jackets, both with that particular stillness that came from carrying weapons. One of them tried the handle. Locked. The other one pulled out a phone, made a call. She couldn't hear what he was saying, but his eyes were scanning the hallway, checking for witnesses. Elena's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Downstairs. Now. She grabbed her bag, moved to the window. Her apartment was on the 4th floor, fire escape rusted but functional. She'd never used it before. Derek had forbidden her from opening the window more than 6 inches because he said the neighborhood was too dangerous. The men in the hallway were still there. She could hear one of them speaking in a language she didn't recognize. Russian, maybe. Or Ukrainian. Elena unlatched the window. The metal screamed. In the hallway, the conversation stopped. She didn't wait. Just threw her bag onto the fire escape and climbed after it, fingers numb against the frozen metal. Behind her, something heavy slammed against her door. Once, twice, wood splintering. Elena ran. Down the fire escape, metal clanging under her feet, bag banging against her hip. She could hear shouting above her, someone leaning out the window. She didn't look back. Hit the 3rd floor landing, then the 2nd, then dropped the last 8 feet to the alley below. Pain shot through her ankle, but she kept moving, limping toward the street. A black Mercedes sat at the curb, engine running. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out, early 30s, dark hair pulled back tight, wearing a leather jacket and an expression that suggested she was deeply annoyed by all of this. Elena Vale? Yes. Get in. Elena threw her bag in the back and climbed into the passenger seat. The woman was already pulling away from the curb before Elena's door was fully closed. In the rearview mirror, Elena saw the 2 men burst out of her building's front entrance, heads swiveling. The driver took a hard left, then another, weaving through empty pre-dawn streets with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. A lot. I'm Sophia, she said. I work for Mr. Moretti. You hurt? My ankle. You're walking on it, so it's not broken. You'll live. Sophia's eyes flicked to the mirror, checking for tails. Those men at your apartment, you get a good look at them? Not really, big, wearing dark jackets. Armed? I don't know, probably? Sophia made a sound that might have been a laugh. Definitely. Volkov doesn't send unarmed people to intimidate graphic designers at 5 in the morning. She took another turn, this time onto a main avenue. Boss wants you at the penthouse. You good with that? Elena's brain was still catching up to her body. Do I have a choice? Always. I can drop you at a police station. You can file a report, get put in witness protection, spend the next 6 months in a safe house in New Jersey, eating vending machine food while federal prosecutors build a case. Sophia glanced at her. Or you can trust that Mr. Moretti knows what he's doing and let him keep you alive his way. Those are terrible options. Yeah, well, you dated a money launderer who works for the Russian mob. Your decision-making is already suspect. Elena almost laughed. It came out as something between a sob and a cough. I didn't know what he was. They never do. Sophia's voice lost some of its edge. Men like your ex, they're good at hiding what they are. That's the whole point. They drove in silence for a while. Manhattan streets were nearly empty, just delivery trucks and the occasional taxi. Sophia took a route that seemed deliberately complicated, doubling back twice, using side streets Elena had never heard of. Finally, they pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a building that looked like it cost more per month than Elena made in a year. Sophia parked in a spot marked Reserved. Moretti. Killed the engine. Rules. Don't touch anything you're not invited to touch. Don't open curtains. Don't answer the door. Don't order food delivery. Don't call anyone except people the boss approves. You break these rules, you die. Understand? You're very reassuring. I'm very realistic. Sophia grabbed Elena's bag, led her to a private elevator that required a key card to operate. The boss? He's trying to help you, but his kind of help comes with strings. You should know that going in. The elevator rose smoothly, silently. Elena watched the floor numbers climb. What kind of strings? The kind where you can't unknow what you're about to learn. About him. About his business. About how this city actually works. The elevator stopped on the 42nd floor. Doors opened directly into a penthouse apartment that was all floor-to-ceiling windows and expensive minimalism. Once you're in, you're in. There's no going back to normal after this. Elena stepped into the penthouse. The view was insane. Manhattan spreading out in every direction, the East River dark and glittering. The furniture was sparse but clearly expensive, everything in shades of black, gray, white. No photographs, no personal items. It looked like a place someone used but didn't live in. Lucien was standing by the windows, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Italian. He glanced at Elena, held up one finger. Wait, Sophia set the bag down. Kitchen stocked. Guest room is down that hall, second door. Bathrooms attached. You need anything? Text this number. She handed Elena a card. Don't text the boss directly unless it's an emergency. He's got enough to deal with. Where are you going? To clean up your apartment. Make sure those guys didn't leave anything interesting behind. Sophia paused at the elevator. You're safe here. These windows are bulletproof. The doors reinforced steel. There's a panic room behind the bookshelf if things go really sideways. But they won't. Boss doesn't lose people he's protecting. Then she was gone. Lucien finished his call, pocketed his phone. He'd changed clothes again. Gray slacks, white shirt, no tie. He looked tired. Actually tired. Not just the controlled exhaustion Elena had seen at the lounge. You made it. Barely. Barely counts. He moved to the kitchen, started making coffee without asking if she wanted any. The men at your apartment were Volkov foot soldiers, low-level intimidation crew. Sophia's running their photos through some databases, but I already know who sent them. Who? Viktor Sokolov. He runs the Volkov operations in New York. Your ex-boyfriend was laundering money for him. Now Derek's in police custody talking to detectives, and Victor's nervous about what he might say. Lucien poured 2 cups of coffee, added cream to one without asking how she took it. He'd guessed right. You became a liability the moment I made Derek swallow that drugged drink in front of witnesses. Elena accepted the coffee, wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic. So this is your fault. Partially. Also yours for dating an idiot criminal. Also Derek's for being one. Also Victor's for running a sloppy organization. Plenty of blame to go around. Lucian leaned against the counter, studied her. You look like you're about to collapse. I haven't slept. Guest room. Go. We'll talk after you've had a few hours. Elena wanted to argue, to demand answers, to understand what the hell was happening to her life. But her body was shutting down, adrenaline crash hitting hard. She found the guest room exactly where Sophia had said it would be. The bed was enormous, the sheets were expensive, and the moment her head hit the pillow, she was gone. She woke to voices, male voices, speaking low and fast. Elena lay still, listening. One was Lucian. The other was unfamiliar, older, rough around the edges, New York accent thick as concrete. Can't keep her here indefinitely. I'm aware, Lucian's voice was tight. Victor's already asking questions. He knows you're involved. He's going to assume you're protecting her for a reason. I am protecting her for a reason. Yeah, but what reason? You don't even know this girl. She's just some random woman who got tangled up with the wrong guy. Silence. Then, she reminds me of Sophia. The other man's voice softened. Luke, I know she's not Sophia, but when I saw that bastard slipping drugs into her drink, all I could think about was my sister sitting in that hospital bed telling me she fell down the stairs. Lucian's voice went cold. I'm not letting it happen again. Not when I can stop it. So what's the play? Make Victor understand that Elena's under my protection, publicly. Make it clear that touching her means war with the Moretti family. That's a big escalation over one graphic designer. I don't care. The other man sighed. You're getting soft in your old age. I'm 36. Yeah, and 5 years ago you would have let this girl handle her own mess. Now you're risking a territorial conflict over someone you met yesterday. 5 years ago, Sophia was still alive. More silence. Elena heard footsteps, a door closing. She waited 10 minutes, then got up and found her way back to the living room. Lucian was alone now, standing at the windows again. Late afternoon light poured in, turning Manhattan gold. He didn't turn around. You're a terrible liar. I could hear you breathing from the bedroom. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Yes, you were. He turned. His expression was carefully neutral. How much did you hear? Enough to know you had a sister named Sophia, and that you're risking something important to protect me. Lucian walked to the bar, poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey. Didn't offer her any. Sophia was my younger sister. She died 10 years ago. Her husband killed her and made it look like an accident. By the time I figured out what he'd done, he'd already fled the country. I never found him. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't bring her back. He drank the whiskey in one swallow. You want to know why I'm helping you? That's why. Because I failed to protect her, and I'm tired of failing. Elena moved closer to the windows. Below, the city was waking up from its afternoon lull. Taxis, pedestrians, normal people living normal lives. The man you were talking to, who was he? Marco, my head of security. He thinks I'm making a mistake getting involved with you. Is he right? Lucian refilled his glass. Probably, but I'm doing it anyway. Why? Because Viktor Sokolov is a parasite. He's been trying to expand into my territory for 2 years, using your ex-boyfriend to launder money through real estate deals, setting up drug distribution through nightclubs I used to control. I've been looking for an excuse to push back. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You're the excuse. Elena's stomach dropped. So I'm just leverage. You're a person who deserves not to die. The fact that protecting you also serves my interests doesn't change that. Lucien set down his glass. I'm offering you a deal. Work for me, publicly. I need someone to manage the redesign of one of my restaurants, Noir Étoile, in Tribeca. It's a legitimate job, good pay. But more importantly, it puts you under my organization's umbrella, makes you untouchable. And if I say no, then I'll put you on a plane to Seattle or Portland or wherever you want to disappear to, give you enough money to start over, and wish you luck. But Victor will eventually find you, maybe in 6 months, maybe in 2 years. And when he does, I won't be there to stop what happens next. Elena wanted to be angry, wanted to throw the manipulation back in his face, but she was too tired and he was too honest. This is insane. Yes, I'm a graphic designer. I don't know anything about restaurants. You know design, that's all I need. The rest you'll learn. Lucian pulled out his phone, showed her photos of a beautiful but dated restaurant interior. Noir Étoile used to be the best French restaurant in Manhattan. Then the chef died, the menu got stale, and the clientele moved on. I bought it 3 months ago. I want to relaunch it. New concept, new branding, new everything. You'd be in charge of the visual identity. Despite everything, Elena felt something stir. Professional interest. The space had good bones, high ceilings, gorgeous light. What's the budget? Whatever it takes to make it perfect. That's not a real answer. It's the only answer I'm giving you. Lucian's eyes were dark and steady. Say yes, and you get to rebuild your life on your terms. Say no, and you spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Elena looked at him. Really looked. This man had killed people. She was certain of it. The way he'd handled Derek, the casual violence in his movements, the cold calculation in every decision. He was dangerous, connected to things that would destroy her if she let them. But he'd also saved her life, twice now. I need rules, she said finally. What kind of rules? If I work for you, I'm not your property. I'm not someone you control. I make my own decisions. Agreed. I want my own apartment, not here, somewhere I can actually live. I'll have Sophia find you something. Secure building, doormen, cameras. And if I want to leave, the job, the city, all of it, you let me go, no strings. Lucian was quiet for a long moment. I can't promise that. Once you're part of this world, leaving isn't simple. People will know you worked for me. That connection doesn't just disappear. Then I need insurance. What kind? Information about you, about your business, something that keeps me safe if things go wrong. Lucian actually smiled. It was sharp and dangerous and almost impressed. You want leverage against me? Yes. Smart. He finished his whiskey. Fine. Work for me for 6 months. Prove you're serious about the job. After that, I'll give you access to certain files. Insurance, like you said. But if you betray me, I won't. If you betray me, he continued, there's nowhere on earth you'll be safe. I don't forgive betrayal, not from anyone. Elena extended her hand. 6 months. Then we renegotiate. Lucien shook it. His grip was firm, warm, completely controlled. Welcome to Noir Étoile, Miss Vale. The next 3 days were a blur. Sophia moved Elena into a one-bedroom apartment in a building Lucien owned in the West Village. 15th floor, river views, security that included fingerprint scanners and cameras in every hallway. It was nicer than anywhere Elena had ever lived, and it felt like a very expensive cage. She met with Lucien's lawyers, signed contracts, non-disclosure agreements, employment paperwork that paid her more than she'd made in the last 2 years combined. Everything was legal, everything was documented, and everything was designed to tie her to Lucien's organization in ways that would be very difficult to untangle. Marco, Lucien's head of security, gave her a 2-hour lecture on operational security. Don't use public Wi-Fi. Don't post on social media. Don't tell friends where you're working. Don't date anyone without running them through background checks first. Don't trust anyone who seems too interested in your connection to Lucien Moretti. Basically, Elena said, don't have a life. Marco's expression didn't change. Basically, don't be stupid. People will try to use you to get to him. Some will be obvious, some won't. You need to assume everyone's a threat until proven otherwise. That sounds exhausting. It is. Welcome to the family business. On the 4th day, Lucien took her to Noir Étoile. The restaurant was closed for renovations, which meant it was just the two of them walking through empty dining rooms. The space was beautiful. Exposed brick, vintage chandeliers, a marble bar that ran the length of one wall. But it was also dated. The color scheme was wrong. The furniture was heavy and dark. The lighting made everything feel like a funeral home. Tell me what you see, Lucien said. Elena walked the space slowly, taking notes on her phone. Good bones. Terrible execution. Whoever designed this was trying too hard to be fancy. It feels like a museum instead of a place where people actually want to eat. What would you do different? Lighter colors, natural materials, more windows, or at least the illusion of more windows. Plants, texture. Make it feel alive instead of preserved. She stopped at the bar. This stays. It's gorgeous. But everything else needs to go. Lucien leaned against the bar, watching her work. You're good at this. It's my job. No, I mean, you're actually good. Most designers I've worked with talk in abstract concepts. You talk in specifics. He pulled out his phone, made a note. You'll have a team, contractors, architects, whatever you need. The relaunch is scheduled for 8 weeks from now. Elena's head snapped up. 8 weeks? That's impossible. It's necessary. Victor's been circling this place for months, thinks I'm going to fail and he can buy it cheap. I need to prove him wrong. Lucien's expression hardened. This restaurant is territory. If I can't hold it, Victor starts thinking he can take other things, other places, maybe even people. So I'm not just designing a restaurant, I'm making a statement. Everything's a statement in this world. They were interrupted by voices at the entrance. Elena turned. 3 men had walked in, late 20s, expensive suits, the particular swagger that came from thinking they were important. The one in front was tall, blonde, with ice blue eyes that locked onto Elena immediately. Moretti, he said. Russian accent, not heavy, but present. I heard you were here. Lucien didn't move from his position against the bar. Dmitri, you're in the wrong neighborhood. Am I? I thought this was still unclaimed territory. Dmitri's smile was all teeth. Heard you bought a failing restaurant, planning to throw good money after bad? Planning to remind people why the Moretti name means something. By hiring a graphic designer? Dmitri's eyes raked over Elena. This is your secret weapon? She's pretty, I'll give you that. But Victor's not impressed by pretty. Elena felt Lucien tense beside her. The air in the restaurant changed. The 2 men with Dmitri shifted their weight, hands drifting toward the concealed weapons. You should leave, Lucien said quietly. We're just talking. Dmitri took a step closer to Elena. Tell me something, sweetheart. How much is Moretti paying you to play designer? Because I bet Victor would pay more. All you'd have to do is share some information. Blueprints, security codes. Nothing serious. Dmitri. Lucien's voice could have frozen blood. Walk away. Now. Or what? You going to start a war over some girl you picked up 3 days ago? Dmitri laughed. Everyone knows you're getting soft. 5 years ago you would have... He didn't finish the sentence. Lucien moved. One moment he was leaning against the bar. The next, his hand was wrapped around Dmitri's throat, slamming him back against the exposed brick wall hard enough to crack plaster. The 2 bodyguards reached for their guns. Lucien didn't even look at them. If you pull those weapons, he said conversationally, you'll be dead before they clear your holsters. Marco's got a sniper on the building across the street. Sophia's behind the bar with a shotgun. And I've got my hand on your boss's windpipe. So let's all make smart choices. Dmitri's face was turning red. He made a choking sound. Elena works for me, Lucien continued. That makes her family. You approach her again, you die. You talk to her again, you die. You even think about her too hard, and I'll know, and you'll die. Is that clear? Dmitri managed a nod. Lucien released him. Dmitri collapsed to his knees, coughing. His bodyguards helped him up, careful not to make any sudden moves. They backed toward the door, Dmitri still gasping for air. At the threshold, Dmitri turned. Victor will hear about this. Good. Tell him Elena Vale is under Moretti protection. Make sure he understands exactly what that means. They left. Elena realized she'd stopped breathing. Was that necessary? Yes. Lucien pulled out his phone, sent a text. Victor sent him here to test boundaries, to see if I actually care about protecting you or if I'm just posturing. Now he knows. You almost killed him. I showed restraint. 5 years ago, I would have actually killed him. Lucien looked at her. This is what I meant about complications. You're in my world now. People will try to use you, hurt you, turn you against me. You need to be ready for that. I'm not ready for any of this. No one ever is. He walked to the door, checked the street. Come on. Sophia's driving you home. I've got a meeting with some people who need to understand that threatening you is the same as threatening me. Elena followed him outside. A black SUV was waiting at the curb. Sophia behind the wheel, expressionless as always. Lucien opened the door for Elena, waited until she was inside. One more thing, he said. Your ex-boyfriend, Derek. He's being arraigned tomorrow. The DA is charging him with attempted sexual assault, possession of controlled substances with intent to distribute, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Kidnapping? Turns out Victor had a whole plan for you. Derek was supposed to drug you, deliver you to a secondary location, and use you as leverage against me once Victor figured out I'd intervened at the lounge. Lucien's expression was carved from ice. You were a target before you even knew my name. Elena's hands had started shaking again. What happens to Derek? He'll probably take a plea deal. 10 years, maybe 15. Victor will make sure he doesn't testify against the syndicate. Your ex-boyfriend is going to spend a very long time in a very small cell, and there's nothing you need to do except move forward. I should feel relieved. But you don't. I loved him once, before he became whatever he became. Elena looked up at Lucien. Does that make me stupid? It makes you human. He closed the car door. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start building your future. Sophia drove Elena back to the West Village apartment. Neither of them spoke. Elena stared out the window, watching the city scroll past. Normal people doing normal things. She wondered if she'd ever be normal again. The apartment was quiet when she got back. Secure. Empty. Elena made tea she didn't drink, opened her laptop, started sketching ideas for Noir Etoile's redesign. It was easier to focus on color palettes and lighting concepts than to think about the fact that her life had become a chess game between criminal organizations. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then she remembered Dimitri's ice-blue eyes and the way he'd looked at her like she was something to be acquired. If Victor's people were calling, she needed to know. She answered. Hello? Elena Vale. The voice was male, older, with a heavy accent she now recognized as Russian. We haven't met. My name is Victor Sokolov. I believe we have much to discuss. Elena's blood went cold. I have nothing to say to you. No? Pity. I have much to say to you. Victor's voice was smooth, almost friendly. You've made a powerful enemy, Miss Vale. My organization does not appreciate interference in our business. Your ex-boyfriend was a valuable asset. Now he is in police custody, facing serious charges. Someone must answer for this disruption. Talk to Lucien Moretti about that. Oh, I will. But first I wanted to speak with you. Woman to whoever you are to Moretti. Girlfriend, employee, pet project. He chuckled. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you understand the position you're in. You think Moretti's protection makes you safe. It doesn't. It makes you a target. Is there a point to this call? The point, Miss Vale, is that you have a choice. Continue working for Moretti and risk becoming collateral damage in a conflict that has nothing to do with you. Or walk away. Disappear. I'll even help you relocate. New city, new identity. Enough money to start over properly. In exchange for what? Information. Nothing major, just details about Moretti's operations, security procedures, business contacts, the kind of things you'll naturally learn while redesigning his restaurant. Elena's grip tightened on her phone. You want me to spy on him? I want you to survive. Moretti is dangerous, Miss Vale. He's killed more people than you can imagine. His hands are covered in blood, and he'll wash them with yours if it serves his interests. And you're better? I'm honest about what I am. Moretti pretends to have honor, to follow rules, but when it comes down to it, he'll sacrifice anyone to protect his empire, even you. Victor paused. Think about my offer. You have 48 hours. After that, the opportunity expires, and you'll have to face whatever comes next without my protection. The line went dead. Elena sat in her expensive apartment with her expensive phone and her expensive new job, and realized she was trapped between two men who saw her as a tool rather than a person. She called Lucien. He answered immediately. Victor Sokolov just called me, she said. He wants me to spy on you in exchange for protection and a new identity. Silence. Then, what did you say? Nothing. I hung up, but he gave me 48 hours to decide. Did he threaten you? Not directly. He was very polite about explaining how dangerous you are. Lucien made a sound that might have been a laugh. Stay where you are. I'm sending Marco over. Don't answer your phone unless it's me or Sophia. Lucien, this changes things. Victor doesn't make offers like that unless he's planning something bigger. I need to adjust our security protocols. I don't want to be the reason people die. People are going to die regardless of what you want. This conflict's been brewing for 2 years. You're just the excuse it finally breaks open. His voice softened slightly. I meant what I said at the restaurant. You're family now. That means I protect you, no matter what it costs. Even if it costs a war? Especially if it costs a war. He hung up. Elena sat in silence, watching the city lights flicker beyond her bulletproof windows, and wondered exactly when her life had stopped being her own. Marco arrived 20 minutes later with 2 additional security guards and a bag full of equipment. They swept the apartment for bugs, installed additional cameras, changed all the locks. Marco handed Elena a new phone, encrypted, untraceable, loaded with emergency contacts. Victor making contact this early is a bad sign, Marco said. Means he's confident about something. Maybe he's got leverage we don't know about. Maybe he's got people inside our organization. Either way, you're the pressure point he's testing. Lucky me. You signed up for this. I signed up to design a restaurant. Marco's expression was almost sympathetic. No. You signed up the moment you let Lucien save your life. Everything after that was just paperwork. After Marco left, Elena tried to sleep and couldn't. Tried to work and couldn't focus. Tried to call her sister in Chicago and stopped herself because she didn't know what she'd even say. Hi, I'm working for a mob boss and his competitor wants me to betray him. How's your week going? At 2 a.m., someone knocked on her door. Elena froze. Marco had said not to answer the door for anyone. But the knock came again, gentle and persistent. She checked the camera feed on her new phone. It was Lucien, alone, wearing the same clothes from earlier. She opened the door. He looked exhausted. I couldn't sleep. Me neither. Can I come in? Elena stepped aside. Lucien entered, moved to the windows, stood looking out at the city the same way he had at his own penthouse. They stood in silence for a long moment. You're thinking about taking Victor's offer, Lucien said finally. How did you? Because I would be, if I were you. New identity, fresh start, no more looking over my shoulder. It's a good deal. Except for the part where I'd have to betray you. There's that. He turned to face her. I want you to know something. If you decide to take it, if you want out, I won't stop you. I'll be disappointed, probably angry, but I won't hunt you down or hurt you. You're not a prisoner. Victor said you'd sacrifice me if it served your interests. Victor's not entirely wrong. I've made hard choices before. Sacrificed people I cared about to protect the larger organization. Lucien's voice was flat. But I've also learned that some things are worth more than territory or power. You remind me of that. You remind me there are still people in this world worth protecting just because they deserve it. I'm not your dead sister. I know. His expression softened. You're yourself. That's why I'm giving you a choice. Stay and help me build something good out of Noir Etoile. Something that's actually legitimate, that isn't just a front for moving money or controlling territory. Or leave, and I'll make sure you disappear so thoroughly that Victor will never find you. Elena moved closer to the windows. Below, the city was quiet, just the occasional siren or car horn. What happens if I stay? War, probably. Victor's been looking for an excuse to move against me. This is it. People will die. Yes. Because of me. Because of Victor's ambition and Derek's stupidity and 100 other factors that have nothing to do with you. Lucien's jaw tightened. Don't take on guilt that isn't yours. You're not responsible for other people's choices. Elena thought about Derek's face when he'd tried to drag her out of the sapphire room. Thought about Dimitri's cold eyes. Thought about Victor's smooth voice offering her an escape that would turn her into exactly what she'd spent 2 years trying not to be. Someone else's tool. I'm staying, she said. Lucien's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Relief, maybe. Or concern. You're sure? No. But I'm tired of running, tired of being afraid, tired of letting men make decisions about my life. She met his gaze. You said, if I work for you, I make my own choices. This is my choice. I stay. I design your restaurant. And if Victor wants a war, then we give him one. This isn't a game, Elena. I know. She didn't blink. That's why I'm choosing to fight. Lucien studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, sent a text. Okay, Tomorrow morning, we accelerate the timeline. Noir Etoile opens in 6 weeks instead of 8. We're going to make the biggest splash this city has seen in years. Everyone in Manhattan is going to know that the Moretti organization is still a force to respect. And me, you're going to become the face of that relaunch, the brilliant designer who turned a failing restaurant into the hottest reservation in New York. Victor wanted you to be a weakness. Instead, you're going to be a weapon. Elena felt something shift inside her, not quite confidence, but maybe the beginning of it. When do we start? Now. Lucien moved toward the door. Get dressed. I'm taking you to meet the rest of the family. It's 2 a.m. My world doesn't sleep. Neither do you, apparently. He paused at the threshold. Fair warning. Some of these people aren't going to like you. They're going to see you as a liability, an outsider, someone who doesn't belong. How do I change their minds? You don't. You prove them wrong by being better than they expect. By making Noir Etoile so successful, they can't argue with the results. Lucien's smile was sharp. You wanted to make your own choices. Now you're going to have to defend those choices in front of people who think you're going to get us all killed. Elena grabbed her coat. Let's go. They took Lucien's car, a black Audi that Sophia drove with the same efficient precision she did everything. Lucien sat in back beside Elena, making phone calls in Italian and English and sometimes Russian, coordinating something, preparing for something. They pulled up to a warehouse in Red Hook. The building looked abandoned from the outside, but when Sophia unlocked the side entrance, the interior was fully renovated. Exposed brick, industrial lighting, a conference table surrounded by 15 people who all turned to stare when Elena walked in. Marco was there. Sophia, Dimitri's boss. A woman in her 50s with iron-gray hair and eyes like a hunting bird. Half a dozen others Elena didn't recognize, all wearing expressions that ranged from skeptical to openly hostile. Lucien didn't waste time with introductions. This is Elena Vale. She's redesigning Noir Etoile. She's also under my direct protection. As of tonight, anyone who moves against her moves against the entire Moretti organization. A man at the far end of the table leaned forward, late 40s, scarred knuckles, face like weathered concrete. That's a bold claim over a graphic designer you've known for less than a week. It's not a claim, Sal. It's a fact. Lucien's voice was ice. Victor Sokolov is trying to use her to destabilize our position. He called her tonight, offered her money and protection in exchange for intelligence. She refused and reported it immediately. That's loyalty. Something half the people in this room could learn from. Silence. Several people shifted uncomfortably. The woman with gray hair spoke. Victor making contact this early suggests he's got something planned. An offensive, maybe. Or leverage we haven't identified. Agreed, Angela. That's why we're moving up the Noir Etoile timeline. 6 weeks. We're going to flood Manhattan with publicity, generate so much attention that Victor can't move against us without exposing himself publicly. Lucien pulled up blueprints on the screen at the head of the table. Elena's going to need resources, contractors, security during construction, access to our suppliers. I want everyone coordinating with her directly. You're putting her in charge? Sal's voice was incredulous. She's what the project needs. Someone with fresh eyes who isn't tangled in our old feuds. Lucien's gaze swept the room. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave. But if you stay, you follow her lead on this. No second guessing, no undermining. Clear? Reluctant nods. Elena felt every eye in the room on her. Judging, measuring, waiting for her to fail. She forced herself to stand taller, to meet their stares without flinching. I know most of you think I'm going to get you killed, she said. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Maybe you're right, but I'm here because Victor Sokolov tried to destroy my life and Lucien stopped him. Now Victor wants to use me against all of you. I'm not going to let that happen. So either help me make Noir Etoile successful or stay out of my way. More silence. Then Angela smiled. It wasn't warm, but it was approving. She's got spine. I'll give her that. She'll need more than spine, Sal muttered. Then help her develop the rest, Lucien. Ian said. Sal, you're head of construction coordination. Angela, supply chain. Marco, security. Sophia, you're Elena's direct liaison. Anything she needs, you make it happen. The meeting continued for another hour. Details about timelines, budgets, security protocols. Elena took notes on her phone, tried to absorb information that came at her like a fire hose. These people spoke in shorthand, in code, in references to past conflicts and old alliances she didn't understand. But she learned. She learned that Angela controlled most of the high-end food suppliers in Manhattan, that Sal had connections to every legitimate construction crew and several illegitimate ones, that Marco had a network of informants inside the NYPD and the FBI, that Sophia had killed 3 people last year, and nobody talked about it, but everyone knew. She learned that the Moretti organization was huge. Restaurants, shipping, real estate, import-export, investments that spanned from Manhattan to Milan to Hong Kong. All of it legal on paper. All of it supported by infrastructure that existed in the shadows. And she learned that she was now part of that infrastructure. The meeting ended at 4:30 a.m. People filed out, some still giving Elena suspicious looks, others nodding acknowledgement. Angela stopped beside her on the way out. "You handled that well," she said. "Better than I expected." "Thanks, I think." "Don't thank me yet. Victor's going to come at you hard. He doesn't make offers like the one he gave you without a backup plan. When you refuse him publicly, he'll escalate." Angela's expression was grim. "Make sure you're ready for what that means." Then she was gone. Lucien drove Elena back to her apartment himself. Sophia had left earlier to handle something urgent. The sky was starting to lighten, pre-dawn gray washing over the city. "You did well tonight," Lucien said. "I barely said anything." "You didn't back down. In this world, that's half the battle." He pulled up in front of her building. "Get some sleep, real sleep. Tomorrow we start construction coordination. It's going to be chaos." Elena started to get out, then stopped. "Lucien, what Angela said about Victor having a backup plan. What do you think he's going to do?" Lucien's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it'll be designed to force my hand, to make me choose between protecting you and protecting the organization. And if he succeeds, if you have to choose, then I choose you." He said it like it was simple, like he'd already made the decision and accepted the consequences. "I failed my sister because I didn't see the threat until it was too late. I'm not making that mistake again." "Even if it costs you everything?" "Especially then." Elena got out of the car, watched him drive away, and realized with absolute clarity that she'd just crossed a line she could never uncross. She was all in now. Whatever came next, there was no going back. Inside her apartment, Elena stripped off her coat, made coffee she didn't drink, and stood at the windows watching the sun rise over Manhattan. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. 40 hours remaining. Choose wisely. V. Elena deleted the message. Then she opened her laptop and started working on designs for Noir Etoile. Because if she was going to war, she was going to make damn sure the restaurant was worth fighting for. Outside, the city woke up. And somewhere in a different building, Viktor Sokolov smiled and made a phone call that would change everything. The war had begun. And Elena Vale was standing right in the middle of it with nothing but talent, stubbornness, and the protection of a man who'd already lost everyone he loved once before. She just hoped it would be enough. The construction crew arrived at Noir Etoile at 6 in the morning, and by 6:15 Elena knew something was wrong. The foreman, a thick-necked man named Tommy, who'd worked for the Moretti organization for 15 years, stood in the middle of the dining room, holding a sledgehammer and staring at the wall like it had personally insulted him. "We got a problem," he said when Elena approached. "What kind of problem?" Tommy pointed at the exposed brick wall she'd planned to keep as a design feature. "That wall's not load-bearing like the blueprint said. It's decorative. The actual support structure is behind it. We tear this down, the whole second floor comes with it." Elena pulled out her tablet, checked the architectural plans Lucien's people had provided. These were surveyed 3 months ago. "Yeah, well, someone fucked up the survey, or the building's been modified since then. Either way, your design doesn't work." Tommy set down the sledgehammer. "We need to halt construction until we get new structural engineers in here. That's at least a week, probably 2. We don't have 2 weeks. Then we got a problem." Elena called Lucien. He answered on the second ring, voice tight with whatever he was dealing with on his end. "What's wrong?" "The architectural plans are wrong. The support walls aren't where they're supposed to be. Construction's halted." Silence. Then, "How long?" Tommy says 2 weeks minimum. That puts us past the deadline. Victor will see it as weakness. Lucian exhaled slowly. I'll send Angela over. She knows people who can expedite the engineering review. In the meantime, focus on what you can control. Finishes. Furniture, branding. Lucien, we adapt. That's what we do. He hung up. Elena stood in the half-demolished restaurant, surrounded by construction debris and frustrated workers, and felt the first real cracks in her confidence. 6 weeks had seemed impossible from the start. Now it was looking genuinely unachievable. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Problems already? That's unfortunate. My offer still stands. 24 hours remaining. V. Elena deleted it without responding. Angela arrived an hour later with a structural engineer who looked like he'd been dragged out of bed and possibly threatened. He spent 90 minutes examining the building, taking measurements, consulting blueprints that didn't match reality. Someone renovated this place illegally, he said finally. Moved walls without permits, changed the support structure without documentation. It's a mess. Can you fix it? Elena asked. I can design around it. Give me 48 hours for new plans. You have 24. The engineer looked at Angela. She smiled. It wasn't friendly. The lady said 24 hours. He left, promising to have something by tomorrow morning. Elena spent the rest of the day meeting with furniture suppliers, reviewing fabric samples, arguing with lighting designers about the difference between warm amber and honey gold. Normal work. Professional work. The kind of thing she'd gone to school for and actually knew how to do. It felt like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. By evening, she was back at her apartment, exhausted and covered in plaster dust. She'd just stepped out of the shower when someone knocked on her door. Not the gentle knock from before. This was urgent, insistent. She checked the camera feed. Marco stood in the hallway, face grim. Elena opened the door. What happened? We need to talk. Inside. She let him in. Marco swept the apartment with a device that looked like a phone but clearly wasn't, checking for surveillance. Satisfied, he pocketed it and turned to face her. There's a leak, he said. Elena's stomach dropped. What kind of leak? Someone inside the organization is feeding information to Victor. Construction schedules, security protocols, your movements. Marco's expression was carved from stone. Victor knew about the structural problems at Noir Etoile before we did. He's been placing bets with other families that you'll fail to meet the deadline. How is that possible? Because someone told him. Someone close to the operation. Marco moved to her windows, checked the street below. Lucien's conducting an internal investigation, quietly. But until we identify the leak, we have to assume everything's compromised. Does Lucien think it's me? Marco's head snapped around. What? No, he trusts you completely. Probably too much, but that's his problem. He paused. The leak started before you came into the picture, a couple months ago. Small things at first, shipment schedules, meeting locations. Nothing critical, but it's been escalating. Who has access to that kind of information? About 40 people. We're narrowing it down. Marco's phone buzzed. He checked it, swore quietly. I have to go. New security protocols start tonight. Sophia's outside in the car. She's staying with you until further notice. I don't need a babysitter. You need someone who can shoot straight if Victor decides to escalate beyond phone calls. Marco headed for the door. Don't argue. Just cooperate. Lucien's got enough to worry about without adding your stubbornness to the list. He left. Elena looked out the window. Sure enough, Sophia was leaning against a black SUV parked directly in front of the building, arms crossed, scanning the street with the focused attention of someone expecting trouble. Elena's phone rang. Not a text this time. An actual call. Unknown number. She should have ignored it, should have followed Marco's protocols. But she was tired of being reactive, tired of waiting for other people to make decisions that affected her life. She answered, What do you want, Victor? Ah, Miss Vale, I wondered if you'd answer. Victor's voice was warm, almost paternal. I hear you're having difficulties with your restaurant project, structural issues, timeline concerns, such a shame. How did you know about that? I know many things. For instance, I know that Lucien Moretti is conducting an internal investigation, looking for a traitor in his organization. It's making people nervous. Nervous people make mistakes. Elena's hand tightened on her phone. If you're trying to scare me, I'm trying to help you see clearly. You're standing in the middle of a collapsing building, Miss Vale, literally and figuratively. The restaurant can't be saved. Lucian's organization is fracturing from within, and you're the catalyst for all of it. I didn't ask for any of this. No, but you accepted it. You chose to align yourself with a dying empire. Victor paused. My offer expires in 18 hours. After that, I can't guarantee your safety. Lucian's enemies are circling. Some of them see you as a weak point. Others see you as a trophy. Either way, you're in danger that has nothing to do with me. You're the one creating the danger. I'm simply taking advantage of an existing situation. If Lucian had any sense, he would have sent you away the moment he realized you were a liability. Instead, he's convinced himself that protecting you is somehow honorable. It's going to get him killed, and you along with him. Is there a point to this call? The point, Miss Vale, is that time is running out. For you, for Lucian, for everyone involved in this situation. You can end it. Walk away. Take my offer. Save yourself and possibly save Lucian. Yen from his own stupidity. Or I proceed with my contingency plan. And that plan involves a level of violence that will make what happened to your ex-boyfriend look gentle. Victor's voice hardened. I'm not a patient man, and I don't make offers 3 times, 18 hours. Choose wisely. The line went dead. Elena stood in her apartment with her phone clutched in her hand and realized Victor was right about one thing. She was standing in the middle of a collapsing building. She called Lucien. I can't talk right now, he said immediately. Background noise suggested he was in a car, moving fast. Victor just called again. He said he's proceeding with a contingency plan, something violent. When? He didn't specify. Just said I have 18 hours to accept his offer. Lucien was quiet for a moment. I'm dealing with a situation. Marco told you about the leak? Yes. It's worse than he said. Someone's been feeding Victor detailed intelligence for months, not just schedules and locations, financial records, supplier contacts, security rotations. His voice was granite. Whoever it is has access to everything. They're high level, trusted. Do you know who? I have suspicions. I'm handling it. The car engine roared. Stay with Sophia. Don't go anywhere without her. I'll call you when this is resolved. He hung up. Elena looked out the window. Sophia was still there, now on her phone, speaking to someone with sharp, clipped gestures. Whatever was happening, it was affecting everyone. The night stretched out long and sleepless. Elena tried to work on Noir Etoile designs but couldn't focus. Tried to sleep but kept seeing Derek's drugged eyes, Dimitri's cold smile, Victor's voice smooth as poison. At 3 a.m., she gave up and made coffee. Sophia came upstairs at dawn. She looked like she'd been awake all night, too. We're moving you, she said without preamble. Where? Safe house. Lucian's orders. Grab what you need for 3 days. What happened? Sophia's expression was tight. The leak. Lucian identified them. Who was it? Pack first. I'll explain in the car. 20 minutes later, Elena was in the back of Sophia's SUV, heading toward the Bronx. The safe house was in a neighborhood that looked industrial and abandoned, the kind of place where people didn't ask questions. It was Sal, Sophia said finally. Elena's brain struggled to catch up. The construction coordinator? Yeah, he's been feeding Victor information for 8 months. Lucien confronted him 2 hours ago. Sal tried to run. Didn't make it far. Sophia's hands were steady on the wheel. He's alive. For now. Lucien's interrogating him personally. Why would Sal betray the organization? Money. His daughter needed medical treatment Victor's people could provide. Cancer. Victor offered to cover all the expenses in exchange for intelligence. Sal thought he could feed them harmless information, keep his daughter alive, and nobody would get hurt. Sophia's voice was flat. He was wrong. What happens to him? Depends on what he tells Lucien. If he cooperates, gives up everyone he's been in contact with, maybe Lucien shows mercy. Maybe. Sophia glanced at Elena in the rear-view mirror. But probably not. Betrayal's the one thing Lucien doesn't forgive. They arrived at the safe house. It was a narrow brick building squeezed between a warehouse and an auto shop, 3 stories with bars on the windows. Inside, it was surprisingly comfortable. Furnished, clean, clearly maintained for exactly this purpose. "You'll stay here until the situation's resolved," Sophia said. "I'll be downstairs. Marco's got people watching the perimeter. You're safe." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." Elena spent the day in a kind of suspended animation. No work, no calls except from Sophia checking in. No information about what was happening in the world outside this building. She felt like a chess piece that had been removed from the board and placed in a box. At 6 p.m., Lucien arrived. He looked worse than Elena had ever seen him, exhausted, haunted. His shirt was wrinkled, spotted with something that might have been blood. He stood in the doorway of the safe house like he wasn't sure he should come in. "It's done," he said. "Sal?" "Cooperated. Eventually. Gave us everything, Victor's contacts, payment methods, the whole network." Lucien moved to the window, stared out at the industrial wasteland. "He's dead now." Elena felt cold despite the room's warmth. "You killed him." "I did what needed to be done. He had a daughter with cancer. He betrayed 40 people who trusted him, who depended on him, who would have helped him if he'd just asked instead of selling us out to our enemies." Lucien's voice was devoid of emotion. "His daughter's medical bills are paid. I made sure of that. She'll never know what her father did, but he doesn't get to live after what he cost us." Elena sat down on the couch. Her hands were shaking. "This is what you are, what you do." "Yes. You kill people who betray you." "I protect the people who stay loyal. Sometimes that means eliminating threats. That's the business I'm in. The business you agreed to be part of when you chose to stay." Lucien turned to face her. "If you want out now, I'll understand. I'll still protect you, get you somewhere safe. But you can't be part of this world and pretend it's something it's not." Elena wanted to run, wanted to take his offer and disappear to some quiet city where the worst thing that happened was traffic jams and bad weather. But she thought about Derek's face when Lucien had forced him to swallow that poisoned drink, thought about Dimitri's ice-blue eyes, thought about Victor's smooth voice promising violence. "I'm not leaving," she said. Lucien's expression shifted, something like relief. "You're sure?" "No, but I'm staying anyway." He moved to sit beside her on the couch, close enough that she could smell copper and expensive cologne. "Victor's planning something big. Sal gave us fragments of information. A hospital event. 3 weeks from now. Some kind of charity gala. Victor's people are going to be there. He's planning to make a move." "What kind of move?" Sal didn't know specifics, just that it involves you. "They're going to try to take you during the event. Use you as leverage to force me into surrendering territory." Elena's blood went cold. "So we don't go." "We have to go. It's the Metropolitan Hospital Foundation Gala. Every major crime family in New York sends representatives. If I don't show, it looks like weakness, like I'm afraid of Victor." Lucien's jaw tightened. "We go, but we go prepared." "Prepared how?" "We turn his trap into ours. You become bait. Voluntarily." Elena stared at him. "You want me to let them try to kidnap me?" "I want us to control the situation instead of reacting to it. We know where the attempt will happen. We can prepare, put security in place, equip you with surveillance equipment, train you in basic self-defense." Lucien's eyes were dark and steady. "Victor thinks you're weak, a civilian, someone who'll panic when confronted. We prove him wrong." "This is insane. This is the only way to end this without months of escalating violence. We expose Victor's plan publicly, in front of the other families. He loses face, loses credibility, loses the political support he needs to challenge me." Lucien leaned forward. "But I won't force you. This is your choice. You can stay hidden, stay safe. Let me handle Victor my way." "Which involves what? Killing more people?" "Probably." Elena stood up, paced to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over industrial Bronx, turning everything rust and gold. "If I do this, if I agree to be bait, what are the chances I survive?" "If everything goes according to plan, 95%. "And if it doesn't?" Lucien didn't answer immediately. "Lower." "How much lower?" "I don't know. This kind of operation has variables I can't control. Other families, unexpected players. Victor might have backup plans we haven't uncovered. He stood, moved to stand beside her at the window. I won't lie to you, there's real risk. But the alternative is hiding for the rest of your life, while Victor chips away at everything I've built until he's strong enough to come for you anyway. Elena thought about the past 2 weeks. The phone calls, the constant fear, the feeling of being hunted. When would we do this? The gala is in 3 weeks. That gives us time to prepare, train you, set up the operation properly. Lucien's voice softened slightly. You don't have to decide right now. Think about it. Sleep on it. I don't need to sleep on it. Elena turned to face him. I'll do it, but I have conditions. What conditions? I want to be armed. Actually, armed, not just carrying something for show. I want real training, hand-to-hand combat, firearms, everything your people know. Done. And I want the truth about your sister, about what really happened to her. Lucien's expression closed off. That's not relevant. It's relevant to me. You keep comparing me to her, using her death as justification for protecting me. If I'm going to risk my life for this operation, I deserve to know the whole story. For a long moment, Lucien was silent. Then he moved to the couch, sat down heavily. Sophia was 22 when she died. Beautiful, smart, full of plans for the future. She met a man named Marco Rinaldi at a charity event. Not our Marco. Different man. He was charming, successful, from a good family. They got married 6 months later. Elena sat down beside him. I didn't like him, Lucien continued. There was something off, too smooth, too perfect. But Sophia loved him, and I thought maybe I was being paranoid, overprotective. His hands curled into fists. 3 months after the wedding, she called me. Said she'd fallen down the stairs. Needed to go to the hospital. I met her there. Broken ribs, fractured wrist, bruises she tried to hide with makeup. He'd hit her. He'd beaten her, systematically, for weeks. She was terrified, ashamed, convinced herself it was somehow her fault. Lucien's voice went flat. I wanted to kill him immediately. Sophia begged me not to. Said she could handle it. That she'd leave him, get a divorce, do it legally. Elena already knew how this story ended. 2 weeks later, she fell down the stairs again, Lucien, and said. Except this time, she didn't call me. Rinaldi called the ambulance. By the time I got to the hospital, she was in a coma, catastrophic head trauma. The doctors said she'd been dead before she hit the bottom step. I'm sorry. I found Rinaldi at their apartment packing, getting ready to run. He tried to tell me it was an accident, that Sophia had been drinking, that she'd tripped. Lucien's expression was stone. I didn't kill him. I should have. Instead, I had my people put him on a cargo ship bound for the Mediterranean, told them to make sure he understood what he'd done, make sure he suffered. Did they? I don't know. The ship sank in a storm 3 days out. Everyone aboard died, including Rinaldi. Lucien looked at Elena. I told myself it was justice, that he deserved what he got. But the truth is I was too late. I failed to protect Sophia when she needed me, and nothing I did afterward changed that. Elena reached out, took his hand. His fingers were cold. You can't save everyone. I know, but I can save you. He squeezed her hand. That has to count for something. They sat in silence for a while. Outside, the city continued its endless churn. Inside the safe house, 2 people who'd known each other less than 3 weeks held hands like survivors clinging to wreckage. When do we start training? Elena asked finally. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. Marco will take you to our facility. It's going to be brutal. Are you ready? No, but that's never stopped me before. Lucien almost smiled. No, it hasn't. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of Elena's life. Marco woke her at 5:30 every morning, drove her to a warehouse in Queens that looked abandoned from the outside but contained a full training facility inside. Shooting range, gym, sparring mats. Everything necessary to turn a graphic designer into something approximating an operative. The firearms training came first. Marco was patient but uncompromising. He taught her how to hold a gun properly, how to aim, how to breathe through the recoil. She started with a small 9mm handgun, graduated to something heavier. By the end of the first week, she could hit a target center mass at 15 yards. Not perfect, but functional. The hand-to-hand combat was worse. Sophia took over that training, and she didn't believe in going easy. Elena learned how to break someone's grip, how to use her weight, how to target vulnerable areas: eyes, throat, groin, knees. She went home every night covered in bruises, muscles screaming. "You're thinking too much," Sophia said, after Elena failed to block a strike for the 5th time. "Fighting isn't about planning, it's about reacting. Your body needs to move before your brain catches up. My body wants to run away. Then teach it to want something else." Sophia reset into a fighting stance. Again. They went again, and again, and again, until Elena's reactions started getting faster. Not good, but better. In between the brutal physical training, Elena still had to manage Noir Etoile's redesign. The structural engineer had delivered new plans. Construction had resumed. But the timeline was impossibly tight. Every decision felt like triage. What could be sacrificed? What had to be perfect? What was worth fighting for? She was standing in the half-finished restaurant 2 weeks before the gala when Angela found her. "We have a problem," Angela said. "Not unusual. Everything was a problem lately. What now?" "The custom light fixtures you ordered. They're not going to arrive in time. Supplier says shipping delays from Italy, 4 weeks minimum." Elena pulled up her designs on her tablet. The fixtures were central to the entire aesthetic. Modern chandeliers that would transform the space from dated to contemporary. Without them, the restaurant would look incomplete, unfinished. "Find a different supplier." "I tried. Nobody has anything comparable in stock. Custom orders take time." Elena closed her eyes, breathed, tried to think like Lucien would think. What could be salvaged? What workarounds existed? "What about the fixtures from the previous restaurant?" she asked. "The ones we removed during demolition." Angela's eyebrows rose. "Those ugly crystal things?" "They're not ugly, they're vintage. We could have them restored, rewired, incorporate them into the design as a deliberate choice instead of a compromise. That's actually brilliant. Saves money, too." Angela pulled out her phone, started making calls. "I'll get them to a restoration specialist today." Small victories. Elena was learning to celebrate them. But underneath all the training and construction management and constant problem-solving, a clock was ticking down to the hospital gala. 3 weeks became 2. 2 became 1. 7 days became 3. Lucien called her the night before the event. "Last chance to back out," he said. "I'm not backing out." "Good. Because I just got confirmation. Victor's definitely making his move tomorrow night. Sal wasn't lying. They're planning to grab you during the event." Elena's heart rate kicked up. "How?" "Service corridor, near the kitchens. There's a 2-minute window when you'll be away from the main ballroom. They'll have people waiting, probably 4 or 5 of them, armed." "And your people?" "Positioned throughout the venue. Marco's coordinating security. Sophia will be with you the entire night. The moment Victor's people make their move, we'll have them surrounded." Lucian paused. "But Elena, you need to understand something. Once this starts, it's going to move fast, violent. There will be weapons drawn, possibly shots fired. You'll be in the middle of it." "I know. If something goes wrong, then I use what you've taught me. I fight back. I survive." "I won't let anything happen to you." Elena almost laughed. "You can't promise that." "I can promise I'll burn the entire city down if someone hurts you." "That's not comforting." "It's not meant to be. It's meant to be true." His voice softened. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." Elena didn't sleep. She lay in her apartment, Sophia asleep on the couch, armed and alert even in rest, and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow night, she'd walk into a trap knowing it was a trap. She'd let dangerous men try to grab her, trust that Lucian's planning would keep her alive. It was insane, but no more insane than anything else she'd done in the past month. At dawn, she got up and started getting ready. The dress Lucien had sent over was hanging in her closet. Emerald green silk, elegant but allowing movement. Heels that were actually sensible. Hair and makeup that made her look sophisticated rather than helpless. Sophia helped her get dressed, made sure the concealed microphone was properly positioned. "You remember the code phrase? If I say, 'I need some air,' you move immediately." "Good. And if someone grabs you?" "Target vulnerable areas, make noise, don't go quietly." "Better." Sophia handed her a small clutch purse. Inside was a compact 9mm handgun, barely larger than her hand. Last resort. Only if everything else fails. Elena held the clutch, felt the weight of the weapon inside. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who carries a gun to a charity gala. You're not. You're the kind of person who survives. Sophia's expression was almost kind. You've done well. The training, the preparation. You're ready. I don't feel ready. Nobody ever does. Lucien picked them up at 6 p.m. He was wearing a black tuxedo that probably cost more than Elena's car used to before she'd sold it because living in Manhattan made cars pointless. He looked every inch the wealthy businessman, except for his eyes. His eyes were calculating every angle, every risk, every possible outcome. The drive to the Metropolitan Hospital Foundation Gala took 20 minutes. The venue was a converted warehouse in Chelsea, transformed into something that looked like old money and new architecture had a beautiful baby. Lucien had explained that this gala was sacred ground. All the major families attended, declared a truce for one night, and pretended to be civilized while raising money for a legitimate cause, which made it the perfect place for Victor to make a move. Public enough that Lucien couldn't retaliate with immediate violence. Private enough that a brief kidnapping attempt could be executed in the chaos. They arrived at 6:45. Lucien offered Elena his arm. She took it, felt the tension in his muscles beneath the expensive fabric. Sophia walked 3 steps behind them, eyes scanning constantly. Inside, the gala was everything Elena expected. Wealthy people in expensive clothes, pretending to care about hospital funding, while really caring about who was talking to whom and what deals were being made in quiet corners. A string quartet played something classical. Champagne flowed freely. Every surface gleamed. Elena recognized some faces from the meeting at the Red Hook warehouse. Angela, wearing a stunning red dress and discussing something intense with a silver-haired man who radiated authority. Marco, positioned near the bar, suit jacket tailored to conceal the weapon Elena knew he was carrying. And across the room, surrounded by his own security detail, was Viktor Sokolov. Elena had never seen him in person before. He was smaller than she'd imagined. Early 60s, gray hair perfectly styled, expensive suit, warm smile. He looked like someone's kindly uncle, not a man who orchestrated kidnappings and murders. Victor caught her staring. His smile widened. He raised his champagne glass in a small salute. He's confident, Lucien murmured. That's good. Confidence makes people sloppy. They circulated, made small talk with people whose names Elena immediately forgot. Accepted congratulations on the upcoming Noir Etoile reopening. News had spread through the right circles. The restaurant was generating buzz even before opening. Reservations were already backed up for months. Small victories. At 8:15, exactly when Marco's intelligence had predicted, one of Victor's people approached. A woman, mid-30s, attractive, wearing a staff uniform that identified her as event coordination. Miss Vale? She said with a professional smile. There's a phone call for you. Urgent. You can take it in the coordinator's office. Just down that hallway, 3rd door on the left. Elena's pulse jumped. This was it. The lure. A phone call? She made her voice confused, uncertain. Yes, ma'am. The caller said it was about your apartment building, some kind of emergency with the water system. Believable. Specific enough to sound urgent. Generic enough that Elena couldn't verify without checking. Lucien's hand tightened slightly on her arm. A warning. Be careful. Elena made a show of looking concerned. I should probably take that. Excuse me. She walked toward the hallway, Sophia following at a distance. The corridor was quiet, dim. Service areas where staff moved invisibly, keeping the gala running smoothly. Elena counted doors, 3rd on the left. She opened it. The office was small, cramped, a desk, a phone, and 4 men waiting inside. Before Elena could react, hands grabbed her. One man behind, wrapping arms around her torso, another moving for her legs, professional, fast. They'd done this before. Elena didn't scream. Instead, she dropped her weight suddenly, making herself dead weight the way Sophia had taught her. The man holding her torso stumbled. Elena snapped her head back, felt it connect with his nose, heard the crunch. His grip loosened. She kicked backward, heel driving into a shin. Someone swore in Russian. Then Sophia was there. The door slammed open. Sophia moved like liquid violence, gun already drawn. She shot the man nearest Elena. A clean shot to the shoulder that dropped him immediately. The others scrambled for their own weapons. Outside in the hallway, people were shouting, running. The sound of gunfire at a charity gala was causing exactly the kind of chaos Lucian had predicted. Marco appeared with 3 more security people. The remaining kidnappers tried to fight. It was over in seconds. Men on the ground, disarmed, bleeding, but alive. Elena stood in the middle of the office, breathing hard, clutch purse still in her hand. She hadn't even needed the gun inside. Sophia pulled her out of the office. "We need to move. Now." They ran back toward the main ballroom. Behind them, Marco was already calling for police, making sure the scene was documented properly. Evidence. Proof of Victor's attempt. In the ballroom, guests were panicking. Security was trying to maintain order. And in the center of it all, Lucien stood facing Victor Sokolov. "This is your doing," Lucien said. His voice carried across the room, calm, deadly. Victor's expression had lost all its warmth. "I don't know what you're talking about. Your people just attempted to kidnap Elena Vale, in front of witnesses, at a neutral event. You've violated every protocol this city operates on. Prove it." Marco entered, holding a phone. "Already have. Recorded the entire thing, audio and video. 4 of your men attempting to grab Miss Vale. She fought back. My people intervened. It's all documented." The room had gone silent. Every family representative was watching, judging. This was exactly what Lucien had wanted. Victor exposed publicly as someone who couldn't be trusted. Victor's face had gone pale. "This is a setup. This is you," Lucien interrupted, "being sloppy and desperate. You thought you could use Elena as leverage, force me into giving up territory. Instead, you've shown every family here that you have no honor, no respect for tradition." Angela stepped forward. As one of the oldest members of the council that governed organized crime in New York, her opinion mattered. "Victor Sokolov, you've been accused of attempting violence during a declared truce event. What do you say?" Victor looked around the room, saw no support, no allies. His own people had stepped away from him, sensing the shift in power. "This isn't over," he said finally. "Yes," Lucien replied quietly. "It is. You're done in New York. The council will vote tomorrow. But the outcome's already decided. You lose your territory, your operations, everything." He stepped closer. "And if you ever come near Elena again, I'll forget about councils and voting and civilized solutions. I'll just kill you." Victor tried to maintain his composure. Failed. He stormed toward the exit, his remaining security scrambling to follow. The room exhaled. Lucien turned to Elena. His expression was carefully controlled, but she could see the relief beneath it. "You okay?" She nodded. Didn't trust her voice. "You did well. Better than well. You were incredible." Elena looked at her hands. They were shaking, adrenaline crash hitting hard. "Can we leave?" "Soon. I need to talk to the council. Make sure the vote goes the right way. Sophia will take you home. I'll come by later." But before Sophia could escort her out, the woman in the event staff uniform appeared again. The one who'd lured Elena to the office. Except now she wasn't smiling. Now she was holding a gun. "Nobody move," she said. The room froze. The woman grabbed Elena, pulled her backward with one arm, while keeping the gun pressed against her temple with the other. "I'm walking out of here with her. Anyone tries to stop me, she dies." Lucien went completely still. "You don't want to do this." "I'm already dead if I don't. Victor's going to kill me for failing. At least this way, I have leverage." The woman backed toward a side exit, dragging Elena with her. "Clear a path, now." People moved. Marco's hand drifted toward his weapon. Lucien shook his head slightly. Too risky. The woman was using Elena as a shield. They made it to the exit, out into a service corridor. The woman kept moving, gun never wavering. "You're making a mistake," Elena said. Her voice was surprisingly steady. "Shut up. Victor's already lost. Taking me doesn't change that. It just makes things worse for you." I said, "Shut up." Elena remembered Sophia's training. Target vulnerable areas. She went limp suddenly, dropping her weight. The woman stumbled. Elena twisted, grabbed the gun hand, pushed it up and away from her head. The gun went off. The shot was deafening in the narrow corridor. The bullet buried itself in the ceiling. Elena kept pushing, using her body weight the way she'd been taught. The woman tried to fight back, but Elena was younger, stronger, fueled by 3 weeks of brutal training and absolute terror. They hit the ground. The gun skittered away. Elena scrambled for it, fingers closing around the grip just as the woman lunged for her. Elena didn't think, just reacted. She pulled the trigger. The shot hit the woman's center mass. She collapsed backward, eyes wide with surprise. Blood spread across her white uniform shirt. Elena dropped the gun like it had burned her, stood there, shaking, staring at what she'd just done. Footsteps behind her. Lucien appeared, with Marco and Sofia right behind him. Lucien saw the woman on the ground, saw Elena standing over her with the gun at her feet, and his expression shifted through a dozen emotions in as many seconds. Elena! I killed her. Elena's voice sounded distant, disconnected. She was going to shoot me, and You defended yourself. Lucien moved to her, wrapped his arms around her. You did what you had to do. Marco knelt beside the woman, checked for a pulse, shook his head. She's gone. Sofia picked up the gun carefully, using a handkerchief. Self-defense, clear cut. We've got witnesses, security footage. She took a hostage at gunpoint after a failed kidnapping attempt. No DA in the city would prosecute. Elena couldn't stop shaking. Lucien held her tighter. We need to get her out of here. Marco, clean this up. Make sure the statement's filed correctly. I want everything documented. Already on it. Lucien guided Elena toward the exit. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. Elena gulped it down, trying to calm the nausea rising in her throat. I killed someone, she said again. I know. I didn't think. I know. Lucien turned her to face him. Elena, look at me. Look at me. She met his eyes. You survived, he said. That's what matters. You fought back. You protected yourself. And now you get to go home alive. Everything else is just noise. I don't feel alive. I feel... She couldn't find words for what she felt. Empty, hollow. Like something fundamental had changed inside her and she could never get it back. Come on. Lucien led her to his car. Sofia was already behind the wheel. Let's get you somewhere safe. They drove in silence. Elena stared out the window, watching the city blur past. Normal people living normal lives. She'd killed someone tonight. In self-defense, yes. Justified, yes. But still. A human being had been alive an hour ago, and now they weren't, and Elena had been the one to pull the trigger. They arrived at Lucien's penthouse. Not her apartment. His place. He led her inside, sat her down on the couch, poured her something that burned going down. Drink, he said. She drank. This feeling you have right now, Lucien said quietly, it doesn't go away. I'm not going to lie to you and say it gets better. You'll remember this night for the rest of your life, but you'll also wake up tomorrow, and the day after that, and eventually you'll learn to carry it. How do you carry it? Badly. He poured himself a drink. I've killed 11 people. That I can definitely confirm. Probably more if you count indirect actions. Each one haunts me differently, but I keep going because the alternative is letting the weight crush me, and I'm too stubborn for that. Elena looked at him. This man who'd saved her life, put her in danger, trained her to fight, and then held her while she processed taking another human's life. What are we doing, Lucy? Yen? What do you mean? This, us, whatever this is becoming. She gestured at the space between them. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be a graphic designer. Normal. Safe. Instead, I'm sitting in a crime boss's penthouse after killing someone in self-defense at a charity gala. This isn't my life. It is now. That's the problem. Elena set down her glass. I can't go back. Can't pretend I'm the person I was a month ago. That person wouldn't recognize me anymore. Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Is that necessarily bad? I don't know. You tell me. You're the one who lives in this world. The world doesn't care what we want. It just keeps moving. We either adapt or we break. He moved to sit beside her. You've adapted. Faster than most. Stronger than I expected. That's not weakness. That's survival. Elena leaned against him. Let herself take comfort in his presence, even though she knew it was complicated and messy and probably a terrible idea. What happens now? Now we wait for the council vote. They'll strip Victor of his territory, exile him from New York, maybe worse. You'll be officially cleared of any wrongdoing in tonight's shooting. Noir Etoile opens in 2 weeks. Life continues. Just like that? Just like that. But Elena knew better. Nothing was ever just like that. Victor might be defeated, but he wouldn't disappear quietly. The woman she'd killed had a story, a family, a life that had ended because of choices made in fear and desperation. And Noir Etoile's success or failure would determine whether Elena's place in this world was permanent or temporary. She closed her eyes, felt Lucian's heartbeat steady beneath her ear, and wondered when exactly she'd stopped running from danger and started running toward it instead. Outside, Manhattan continued its endless churn. And somewhere in the city, Viktor Sokolov was planning his next move, because men like him never accepted defeat gracefully. The war wasn't over, it had just entered a new phase, and Elena Vale was no longer an innocent bystander caught in the crossfire. She was a combatant, armed, trained, blooded. The person she'd been a month ago was dead. What emerged from the ashes was something harder, sharper, more dangerous. And as she sat in Lucian Moretti's arms, processing the weight of what she'd become, Elena realized with absolute clarity that there was no going back. Only forward, into whatever darkness waited ahead. Elena woke up on Lucian's couch at 6 a.m. with Sophia shaking her shoulder. "Get up. We have a problem." Elena's body ached from sleeping in an awkward position. Her head was fuzzy from whatever Lucian had given her to drink, but Sophia's tone cut through the fog immediately. What happened? Victor didn't wait for the council vote. He left the city 3 hours ago. Private jet to somewhere in Eastern Europe. But before he left, he made arrangements. Elena sat up, trying to force her brain to function. What kind of arrangements? The kind where he hired outside contractors to finish what he started. Sophia handed Elena a cup of coffee. Black. Strong. Marco intercepted communication about 30 minutes ago. There's a hit squad en route to New York. Professional, international. Not affiliated with any local family. They're being paid to take you out as a message to Lucine. The coffee burned Elena's throat going down. When do they arrive? Unknown. Could be today. Could be next week. These people are ghosts. They don't broadcast their movements. Sophia's expression was grim. Victor's making this personal. He lost face at the gala, lost his territory. Now he wants revenge, and he's willing to burn money to get it. Lucian appeared from the bedroom, already dressed, phone pressed to his ear. He looked like he'd been awake all night. Don't care what it costs. I want every entry point into the city monitored. Airports, train stations, bridges. If someone with the right profile shows up, I want to know immediately. He ended the call, turned to Elena. You're not going back to your apartment. You're staying here until this is resolved. For how long? As long as it takes. Elena stood up. Her legs were unsteady but functional. I can't hide forever. We have Noir Etoile's opening in 2 weeks. Press events, contractor meetings. I have work to do. Work can wait. No, it can't. Elena's voice was sharper than she intended. Victor wants me to disappear, to hide, to prove that threatening me is enough to disrupt everything you've built. If I cancel appearances, if I go into hiding, he wins even from thousands of miles away. Lucian's jaw tightened. If you get killed, he wins permanently. Then don't let me get killed. Elena moved to the windows, looked out at Manhattan waking up below. You said I'm family now, that I'm under your protection. Either that means something or it doesn't. But I'm not spending the rest of my life in a bulletproof cage waiting for someone to take a shot at me. Sophia made a sound that might have been approval. Lucien shot her a look. She shrugged. You're being reckless, Lucian said. I'm being practical. Elena turned to face him. Last night, I killed someone. I pulled a trigger and watched a person die. That changed something fundamental in me. I can't go backward, can't pretend I'm just a graphic designer who got caught up in something beyond her control. I chose this. I'm choosing it again right now. Lucien stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, made 3 calls in rapid succession. Marco, I need a full security detail, rotating shifts, armed. Elena's attending all scheduled events for Noir Etoile. Make sure nothing gets through. Sophia, you're her shadow. She doesn't move without you. Angela, accelerate everything. I want that restaurant opening moved up if possible. He hung up, moved to stand in front of Elena. If we're doing this, we're doing it my way. You go nowhere alone. You follow security protocols without argument. And if anything feels wrong, even slightly off, you call it out immediately. Understand? Yes. I'm serious, Elena. These people Victor hired aren't desperate amateurs. They're professionals. They'll study you, learn your patterns, wait for the perfect moment. One mistake and you're dead. I understand. But understanding and truly comprehending were different things. Elena spent the next 3 days learning exactly what it meant to be a target. Marco assigned her a 6-person security rotation. Former military, all of them. They moved like shadows, 3 always visible, 3 always hidden. When Elena went to Noir Etoile to check on construction progress, they swept the building first, checked for explosives, secured exits, positioned snipers on adjacent rooftops. It was exhausting and necessary, and it made Elena realize how vulnerable she'd been before. The restaurant was coming together beautifully. The restored vintage chandeliers had been installed, their crystal elements catching light in ways that made the entire space glow. The kitchen equipment was state-of-the-art. The dining room furniture had arrived, sleek, modern, comfortable. Everything Elena had designed was manifesting into reality. But underneath the professional satisfaction was constant awareness. Every delivery person was vetted. Every contractor was background checked. Every shadow could be a threat. On the 4th day, they got their first real scare. Elena was meeting with the head chef Lucien had hired, a temperamental genius named Anton Rousseau who'd worked in Michelin-starred restaurants across Europe. They were discussing menu presentation when Sophia's hand went to her earpiece. Clear the room, now! Elena knew better than to ask questions. She moved toward the exit. Sophia grabbed her arm, steered her toward the kitchen instead. Potential threat outside. Main entrance. We're using the service exit. They ran through the kitchen, past startled prep cooks, out into the alley where 2 SUVs were waiting. Elena was shoved into the back seat. Sophia jumped in beside her. The vehicle was moving before the door fully closed. What happened? Elena asked. Someone matching the profile of a known contract killer was spotted outside the restaurant, watching. Sophia's hand was on her weapon. Could be reconnaissance, could be setting up a shot. Either way, we're not taking chances. They drove in circles for 40 minutes, switching vehicles twice, before Sophia was satisfied they weren't being followed. Only then did they head back to Lucien's penthouse. Lucien was waiting, pacing like a caged animal. Marco said there was an incident. Possible sighting, Sophia confirmed. Male, Eastern European features, professional surveillance posture. Could be one of Victor's contractors. Did you get photos? Facial recognition is running now, but these people are smart. He's probably already gone. Lucien turned to Elena. This is what I was talking about. They're probing our defenses, testing response times. Next time, they'll exploit whatever weaknesses they find. Elena sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking again. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from the constant state of hypervigilance. How long can we sustain this? As long as necessary. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Lucien poured himself a drink. It was barely noon. Victor's playing a waiting game. He's betting that eventually you'll make a mistake or I'll lower my guard. We have to prove him wrong. Marco entered, tablet in hand. Facial recognition came back negative. Whoever that guy was, he's not in any database we can access, which means he's either extremely good or we're being paranoid. I'd rather be paranoid and alive than careless and dead, Sophia said. Agreed. Marco pulled up a map on his tablet. But we've got another problem. The council met this morning. They voted to strip Victor of his New York operations, but 3 families abstained. That's unusual. Suggests Victor has more support than we realized. Lucien's expression went cold. Which families? Castellano. Volkov remnants who weren't directly implicated in the gala incident. And surprisingly, the Bratva faction that usually stays neutral. Someone's making promises, Angela said, entering the penthouse without knocking. She looked furious. I've been hearing rumors. Victor's offering generous terms to anyone who helps him reclaim his position. Territory, percentages, the works. He doesn't have the resources to back those promises, Lucien said. Doesn't matter if people believe he does. 3 abstentions mean 6 votes against you instead of 9 in favor. That's a much narrower margin than we need. If he flips one more family, the whole decision gets revisited. Lucian slammed his glass down. I had him. He was finished. And now he's rebuilding from exile? He's desperate. Desperate men make bold moves. Angela moved to the bar, poured herself something expensive. We need to cut off his support. Make it clear that aligning with Victor is a losing proposition. How? Hit him where it hurts, his money, his reputation, his ability to make good on those promises. Angela's smile was sharp. I've got contacts who can freeze his accounts, make his assets disappear, turn him from a wealthy exile into a broke fugitive. Hard to buy loyalty when you can't pay for it. Do it, Lucian said immediately. Whatever it takes. The next week was a blur of coordinated attacks, not physical violence. This was economic warfare. Angela's people moved against Victor's financial infrastructure with surgical precision. Bank accounts frozen, assets seized, shell companies exposed. It was elegant and brutal and completely legal, which made it harder to fight. But Victor adapted. 2 days before Noir Etoile's opening, Elena was reviewing final preparations with Anton when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then she recognized the pattern. 3 rings, pause, 3 rings. The same pattern from weeks ago. She answered. Victor. Miss Vale. You sound tired. What do you want? To congratulate you, actually. I underestimated you. You're not the frightened woman I thought you were. You killed one of my people without hesitation, adapted to a dangerous new world with impressive speed. Even now, with professionals hunting you, you refuse to hide. That's admirable. Elena's hand tightened on the phone. Is there a point to this call? The point is that I am offering you one final chance. Walk away from Moretti. Disappear. I'll call off the contract. You get to live your life. Somewhere quiet, somewhere safe. And Lucien? Continues to be my problem, but that's between us. You don't have to die for his pride. Elena looked around the restaurant, the beautiful space she'd designed, the dream she'd built from nothing. You're asking me to abandon everything I've worked for. I'm asking you to choose life over loyalty to a man you've known for 6 weeks. Victor's voice hardened. Moretti can't protect you forever. Eventually, his security will slip. His people will make a mistake. And when that happens, the professionals I've hired will finish their job. Is dying for a restaurant really worth it? It's not about the restaurant. Then what is it about? Elena thought about in the past weeks, the training, the fear, the moment she'd pulled the trigger and watched someone die. The way Lucien looked at her like she was worth protecting even when it cost him everything. It's about choosing who I want to be, and I'm not someone who runs anymore. Then you're a fool, probably. But I'm a fool who gets to make her own choices. Victor was quiet for a moment. I tried to give you a way out. Remember that when the end comes. I tried. He hung up. Elena stood in her beautiful restaurant, surrounded by security and danger and the life she'd chosen, and wondered if Victor was right, if she was throwing away survival for pride. Then she looked at the chandeliers catching light like captured stars and decided some things were worth fighting for, even if the fight seemed impossible. Noir Etoile's opening night arrived with the weight of inevitability. The restaurant looked perfect. Elena had checked every detail a dozen times. The lighting, the table settings, the flowers, white orchids because they photographed well. Anton had prepared a tasting menu that would make food critics weep. Everything was ready. Except Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Lucien arrived at 6, wearing another perfectly tailored tuxedo. He found Elena in the kitchen, checking things that didn't need checking. You should be out front, greeting guests. I will, I just need... She didn't finish the sentence, didn't know how to articulate the anxiety crawling under her skin. Lucien moved closer. Talk to me. What if Victor's people make their move tonight, in front of everyone, all these guests, all this press, and someone just walks in and... They won't. His voice was absolute certainty. Marco has 70 people securing this building. Snipers, surveillance, metal detectors at every entrance disguised as security protocols. Nobody's getting in here with weapons. You're safe. You can't promise that. I can promise that if anyone tries anything tonight, they'll die before they get within 10 feet of you. Lucien took her hands. This is your night, Elena. Your triumph. Don't let Victor steal that from you with fear. Elena nodded, forced herself to breathe. Okay, let's do this. The opening was spectacular. Manhattan's elite showed up in force. Food critics, lifestyle journalists, wealthy socialites looking for the next exclusive experience. The dining room filled with beautiful people making beautiful noise. Anton's food exceeded expectations. The staff performed flawlessly. Everything Elena had designed came together in a symphony of light and taste and perfect execution. She moved through this crowd, accepting compliments, answering questions about her design choices, pretending her security detail wasn't hovering at every corner. Lucian stayed close, playing the role of proud benefactor, while his eyes constantly scanned for threats. By midnight, the opening was being called the event of the season. Social media was exploding with photos and reviews. Reservations were backing up for months. Noir Etoile was an instant success. Elena should have been ecstatic. Instead, she couldn't shake the feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop. It happened at 12:47 a.m. Elena was in the kitchen, thanking Anton and his staff when Sophia appeared. Her expression made Elena's blood go cold. "We have a situation. Marco needs you in the office, now." They moved quickly through the service corridors. Marco was in the small office Elena used for administrative work, staring at his laptop. When he looked up, his face was grim. "We've got a problem. A big one." "What happened?" Lucien demanded, appearing behind Elena. "Victor didn't hire contractors to kill Elena." Marco turned the laptop. Security footage played showing various angles of the restaurant. He hired them to plant explosives. During construction, when we were focused on protecting Elena, they infiltrated the contractor crews and hid devices in the walls. Elena's stomach dropped. "What?" "There are at least 6 explosive devices throughout the building. Small, but powerful. Shaped charges designed to bring down load-bearing structures. If they detonate simultaneously, the building collapses," Lucian finished. His voice was ice. "How did we miss this?" "Because the devices don't have electronic signatures. No remote detonators. No cell triggers. They're mechanical, old school, set to activate based on time or pressure or—" Marco's fingers flew across the keyboard. "I'm trying to figure out the trigger mechanism." "How long do we have?" Elena asked. "Unknown. Could be minutes, could be hours, but with 300 people in this building—" "Evacuate, now!" Lucien was already moving. "Pull the fire alarm, clear the building, get bomb disposal here immediately." Marco was on his phone, coordinating. Sophia grabbed Elena's arm. "We're leaving." "Wait." Elena pulled away. "The guests, the staff. If we just pull the alarm, people will panic. Stampede. Someone could get hurt." "Better hurt than dead," Sophia said flatly. "Then there's a better way." Elena's mind was racing. "We tell people there's a gas leak, something that requires immediate but orderly evacuation. The staff can guide people out calmly. No panic, no stampede." Lucian stared at her. "That could take 20 minutes. "Then we have 20 minutes. Elena moved toward the door. "I'm not letting this place kill anyone, not after everything we've built." She didn't wait for permission, just walked back into the dining room, found Anton, explained the situation in rapid whispers. He went pale but nodded, started quietly mobilizing his staff. They moved through the restaurant, apologizing to guests, explaining about a gas leak, gently but firmly ushering people toward exits. Elena did the same, smile fixed in place, voice calm. "I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. Safety protocols. We'll reschedule your reservation with complimentary champagne. Thank you for understanding." Most people were confused but cooperative. A few argued. Elena's security detail became very convincing very quickly. Slowly, the dining room emptied. 15 minutes. 200 people out. 18 minutes. 50 people remaining. 20 minutes. Kitchen staff filing out through service exits. Just Elena, Lucien, Marco, Sophia, and a handful of security. "That's everyone," Marco said. "We need to go. Now." "What about the explosives?" Elena asked. "Bomb squad's 5 minutes out. They'll handle it, but we can't." The building shuddered. Not an explosion, just a tremor, like something settling or something breaking. "That was a structural shift," Marco said. His voice was tight. "One of the devices activated, probably pressure sensitive. The building's weight distribution just changed." How long before? I don't know. Could be stable. Could collapse any second. We need to leave. They ran. Through the kitchen, out the service exit, into the alley where multiple vehicles were waiting. Elena was shoved into an SUV. The convoy pulled away from Noir Etoile just as the first bomb squad vehicle arrived. 2 blocks away, they stopped, turned to watch. For a long moment, nothing happened. The restaurant stood solid, beautiful. The lights still glowing through windows. Then the second floor sagged. Not dramatically, just a few inches. But it was enough. The weight shifted. Support structures that had been compromised by shaped charges couldn't hold. The building made a sound like a dying animal. Metal screaming, concrete cracking, glass shattering. Noir Etoile collapsed. It happened slowly at first, then all at once. The second floor pancaked onto the first. The roof caved in. Dust exploded outward in a massive cloud that swallowed the entire block. Car alarms screamed. People on the street ran. Sirens wailed in the distance. Elena watched her restaurant, her dream, her triumph, everything she'd built and fought for, turn into rubble. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only stare at the destruction and feel something breaking inside her chest. Lucian's hand found hers, squeezed tight. You saved them. Everyone got out because of you. The restaurant can be rebuilt. People can't. His voice was rough. You did everything right. But it didn't feel right. It felt like Victor had won after all, destroyed what she'd created, proven that no matter how hard she fought, he could still take everything away. Marco was already on his phone barking orders. Sophia was coordinating with emergency services. The bomb squad was examining the ruins, looking for secondary devices. Elena stood in the middle of organized chaos and felt numb. He's going to pay for this, Lucian said quietly. Victor thinks he can attack from a distance and stay safe. He's wrong. How do you find someone who's halfway across the world? You make him come to you. Lucian's expression was carved from ice. Marco, get me a secure line to Victor's people. I want to send a message. What kind of message? The kind that makes him stop hiding behind proxies and face me directly. They returned to Lucian's penthouse. Elena moved through the space like a ghost. Couldn't sit still, couldn't focus. Her mind kept replaying the moment the building collapsed. All that work, all that hope, gone in seconds. Lucien was in his office making calls, coordinating something. Elena could hear his voice, cold, controlled, lethal. Sophia appeared with food Elena didn't want. You need to eat. I'm not hungry. You're in shock. Eat anyway. Sophia set down a plate. For what it's worth, you handled tonight better than most people would have. You kept your head, saved lives. That counts. That, does it? Because right now it feels like I'm just a target. Someone Victor uses to hurt Lucian. That's all I am in this world. A weakness someone can exploit. No. Sophia's voice was sharp. You're someone who pulled 300 people out of a building before it collapsed. You're someone who killed an attacker in self-defense. You're someone who chose to stay and fight when running would have been easier. She paused. You're not a weakness. You're a weapon Lucian didn't know he needed. Before Elena could respond, Lucien emerged from his office. It's done. What's done? Marco asked. I sent Victor a message. Through channels that guarantee he'll receive it. I told him that if he wants to end this, he meets me face to face. Just the two of us. No proxies, no contractors, no games. He'll never agree to that, Angela said. She'd arrived at some point looking exhausted and furious. He's safe in exile. Why would he risk coming back? Because I offered him something he can't refuse. Lucian's smile was dangerous. I told him that if he wins, if he kills me, he gets everything. My territory, my operations, my seat on the council, everything I've built. The room went silent. You're insane, Marco said finally. You're betting your entire empire on a personal duel? I'm ending this, permanently. No more hired killers, no more exploding buildings, no more Elena looking over her shoulder waiting to die. Lucian's voice was absolute. Victor and me. One confrontation. Winner takes everything. And if you lose? Elena's voice was hollow. Then you'll be released from any obligation to my organization. Marco will make sure you're protected, given resources to disappear properly. Start over somewhere Victor can't reach. Lucian moved to her. But I'm not going to lose. You can't know that. I can know that I'm willing to risk everything to keep you safe. That has to count for something. Elena looked at him. This man who'd saved her life, pulled her into his world, protected her at enormous cost. When does this happen? Tomorrow night, abandoned warehouse in Brooklyn. The same place where we negotiated with him before. Neutral ground. Witnesses from the council to make sure the terms are honored. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. I'm not asking permission. Elena's voice cut through his objection. This entire situation exists because of me. Because Victor wanted to use me against you. I don't get to hide while you risk your life to end it. Elena, if you lose, he wins. That means he wins me. Whatever he plans to do with that victory, I should probably be there to understand what I'm facing. She met his eyes. I'm coming. You can try to stop me, but we both know I'll just follow anyway. Lucian stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked at Marco. Can you keep her alive if this goes wrong? Can you keep yourself alive? I'll try. Then so will I. Marco sighed. Everyone should get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. But nobody slept. Elena spent the night staring at security footage of Noir Etoile's collapse, watching her dream turn to dust over and over. Lucien spent it preparing, cleaning weapons, reviewing plans, calling in favors. At dawn, they gathered in the penthouse one last time. The council's agreed to witness, Angela reported. Neutral observers. Whatever happens, the terms will be honored. Victor's confirmed he'll be there, Marco added. Alone, supposedly, though I don't trust that for a second. I don't either. Lucien checked his weapon. A sleek black pistol that looked well-maintained and frequently used. But the terms are clear. If he brings backup, the council voids any agreement and he loses everything by default. And if you bring backup, Elena asked, same rule applies. Lucien holstered the weapon. This is between him and me. Everyone else is just there to make sure the winner is acknowledged. They left for Brooklyn at 7 p.m. The warehouse was exactly as Elena remembered. Industrial wasteland, rusted metal, broken concrete. Inside, the council members were already assembled, representatives from every major family in New York. This was bigger than a personal conflict. This was about power structure, about who controlled what in the city's shadows. Victor was waiting. He looked smaller in person than Elena had imagined. Still wearing expensive clothes, still maintaining that false warmth. But there was something desperate in his eyes now, something broken. Moretti, he said, I didn't think you'd actually show. I keep my word, unlike you. Lucien moved to the center of the space. The council members had created a rough circle, 20 feet in diameter. You wanted a chance to reclaim what you lost. Here it is. You and me. No tricks. No proxies. Just two men settling a debt. Victor smiled. You think you're noble, honorable, but you're just as ruthless as I am. You're just better at pretending otherwise. I don't pretend anything. I know exactly what I am. Lucien's hand rested on his weapon. Are we doing this, or are you going to talk me to death? Victor pulled his own gun. One condition. When I win, the girl stays with me. No protection. No escape. She belongs to me as part of your forfeit. Elena's blood went cold. Lucien's expression went absolutely flat. That's not happening. Then there's no deal. I don't want your territory if I can't humiliate you properly. Taking everything you've built is meaningless if I can't also take what you actually care about. Victor's smile was poison. She comes with the victory, or we end this conversation now and I disappear back into exile with nothing resolved. The council members looked at each other. This wasn't part of the agreed terms. This was Victor improvising, pushing boundaries. Angela spoke up. The girl isn't property. She can't be wagered. Then let her choose, Victor said. Miss Vale, if Moretti wins, you're free to do whatever you want. If I win, you accept that you're part of my prize, your choice, your agency. Isn't that what you wanted, the ability to make your own decisions? Elena felt every eye in the warehouse turn toward her. This was impossible. Choosing between watching Lucien fight for his life or backing out and leaving him to face Victor alone. She looked at Lucy and saw the absolute refusal in his eyes. He would walk away from this fight rather than risk her safety, which meant she had to make the choice for him. I agree, Elena said. Her voice didn't shake. If Victor wins, I accept his terms. Elena, no, Lucien started. If you win, Elena continued, speaking directly to Lucien, then you end this, permanently. No more threats, no more games. Victor either dies here or disappears so thoroughly that he might as well be dead. Those are my terms. Lucien stared at her like she'd just stabbed him. Victor laughed. She's braver than you deserve. Fine. Let's settle this. The council members backed away, expanding the circle. Lucien and Victor stood 20 feet apart, both armed, both dangerous, both willing to kill. Elena wanted to look away. Couldn't. One of the council members raised his hand. Rules are simple. First one to yield or die loses. No interference from anyone outside the circle. Violation means automatic forfeiture. Understood? Both men nodded. The council member's hand dropped. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then Victor fired. The shot went wide. Lucien was already moving, diving left, bringing his own weapon up. He fired twice. Both shots hit Victor, one in the shoulder, one in the thigh. Victor went down screaming, gun clattering away across concrete. Lucien was on him in seconds, kicked the weapon further away, pressed his own gun against Victor's head. Yield! Go to hell! Lucien pressed harder. Yield, or I end you right here. Blood was spreading across Victor's expensive suit. His face had gone pale. He was dying and everyone knew it, but he was too proud to surrender. You can't protect her forever, Victor gasped. Even if you kill me, there will always be someone else, someone who sees her as leverage. She'll never be safe in your world. Then I'll remake my world until she is. Lucien's voice was absolutely calm. Last chance. Yield. Victor's eyes found Elena across the warehouse. You could have taken my offer, could have lived. Instead, you chose him, chose this life. You'll regret it. Probably, Elena said. But it'll be my regret, my choice, not yours. Something shifted in Victor's expression. Acceptance, maybe, or just exhaustion. I yield. Lucien stood up, kept his weapon trained on Victor. Marco. Get medical here. Keep him alive long enough to sign documents transferring his remaining assets. Then he's exiled, permanently. If he ever sets foot in North America again, he dies. Marco was already on the phone. Paramedics arrived 6 minutes later, loaded Victor onto a stretcher. He was still conscious, still glaring at Lucien with absolute hatred. This isn't over, he said as they carried him away. Yes, Lucien replied quietly. It is. The council members filed out, satisfaction or disappointment on their faces, depending on which side they'd been backing. Angela paused beside Elena. You gambled everything tonight. That took either courage or stupidity. Can it be both? Usually is. Angela almost smiled. You'll fit into this world better than I expected, if you survive it. Then she was gone, leaving Elena standing in an empty warehouse with Lucien, Sophia, and Marco. Lucien holstered his weapon, moved to Elena. You shouldn't have agreed to his terms. You wouldn't have fought if I hadn't. I would have found another way. There wasn't another way. We both know it. Elena's voice was steady despite everything. He's gone now. It's over. For now. For now is enough. Elena moved closer. My restaurant is destroyed. My old life is gone. I killed someone. I bet myself in a duel between criminals. I have no idea who I am anymore. You're exactly who you've always been, just more honest about it. Lucien's hand found hers. I know that's not comforting, but it's true. Elena looked at their joined hands, wondered when exactly this had stopped being about protection and started being about something else entirely. What happens now? Now we rebuild. The restaurant, your life, everything. Lucien pulled her closer. Unless you want to take Victor's original offer, disappear, start over somewhere safe. Do you want me to? No. But I'll help you do it anyway if that's what you choose. Elena thought about running, about safety, about returning to the person she'd been before Derek slipped drugs into her drink and Lucien Moretti changed everything. Then she thought about standing in Noir Etoile's ruins, watching her dream collapse, about pulling a trigger to save her own life, about agreeing to bet herself because it was the only way to end the threat permanently. She'd been making impossible choices for weeks. This was just one more. I'm staying, she said. We rebuild everything. Together. Lucien's expression shifted. Relief and concern and something deeper that neither of them was ready to name. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Outside the warehouse, sirens wailed. Someone had called the police about the gunshots. Marco was already coordinating their exit strategy, getting everyone clear before questions could be asked. They left Brooklyn as the sun rose, turning the industrial wasteland gold. Elena sat in the back of an SUV beside Lucy Yen, watching the city scroll past. Manhattan's endless churn continuing like nothing had happened, like her world hadn't just. The police questioning lasted 4 hours. Elena sat in a gray room at the precinct, Detective Ramirez across from her with a notepad and a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. She'd already told the story twice. Now she was telling it a third time, keeping her voice steady, keeping the details consistent. So you're saying Viktor Sokolov planted explosives in your restaurant during construction? That's what Marco discovered, yes. Marco Castellani, Lucien Moretti's head of security. Yes. Ramirez flipped through his notes. And after discovering this, you evacuated 300 guests without causing a panic. Then the building collapsed. Then you went to a warehouse in Brooklyn where Moretti and Sokolov engaged in what you're calling a negotiated confrontation. That's correct. A confrontation that ended with Sokolov being shot twice and yielding his entire criminal operation to Moretti. Elena met his eyes. I don't know anything about criminal operations. I'm a graphic designer. I was there because Sokolov had been threatening me. Lucien was protecting me. By shooting someone. In self-defense. Victor fired first. There were witnesses. Ramirez was quiet for a long moment. Then he closed his notepad. Miss Vale, I'm going to be honest with you. Everything you've told me is technically legal. Self-defense. Legitimate business disputes. Even the duel, as insane as it sounds, doesn't technically violate any laws since both parties were willing participants and the council acted as neutral witnesses. He leaned forward. But we both know what's actually happening here. You've gotten yourself tangled up with organized crime. Maybe you think you're in control. Maybe you think Moretti's protection makes you safe. But people in your position don't usually live long enough to retire. I appreciate the concern. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who's convinced herself that swimming with sharks is fine as long as you don't bleed. Ramirez stood up. You're free to go. No charges. But for what it's worth, you should get out while you still can. Elena left the precinct at 2 p.m. Sophia was waiting outside, leaning against the SUV with her usual expressionless calm. How'd it go? Sophia asked. Ramirez thinks I'm going to end up dead. He's not wrong. Sophia opened the door. But at least you'll die doing something you chose instead of something someone forced on you. That's worth something. They drove back to Lucien's penthouse in silence. Elena stared out the window, watching the city that had become her battleground. 6 weeks ago, she'd been a different person. Scared, controlled, apologizing for existing. That woman felt like someone Elena had read about in a book. Someone who'd never actually been real. Lucien was in his office when they arrived, on the phone with someone, speaking in rapid Italian. He glanced up when Elena entered, held up one finger. Wait. Elena collapsed onto his couch. Every muscle ached. Her head was pounding. She hadn't eaten in 12 hours and her body was starting to protest. Lucien finished his call, emerged from the office. The police let you go. No charges. Ramirez thinks I'm an idiot, but he can't prove anything illegal happened. Good. Lucien sat down beside her. He looked as exhausted as she felt. Victor signed the transfer documents from his hospital bed. Everything he owned in New York is now mine. His exile is official. If he returns to North America, every family in the city has standing permission to kill him. So it's really over. The immediate threat is, but there will be others. People who see you as a way to get to me. People who resent your presence in my world. It won't be easy. Elena laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. Nothing about this has been easy. No, it hasn't. Lucien's hand found hers. You can still leave. I meant what I said. I'll help you disappear, set you up somewhere safe. You don't have to stay in this world. Elena thought about Noir Etoile's ruins, about Derek's drugged eyes, about the woman she'd killed, about Victor's blood on concrete, about every impossible choice she'd made to get to this moment. Where would I even go? She asked. What would I do? Go back to freelance design work in some quiet city? Pretend none of this happened? Spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder waiting for the past to catch up? Maybe, but you'd be alive. I'm alive now. Elena turned to face him. I'm also finally myself, the person I was always too scared to be, strong, decisive, unafraid to fight for what I want. She paused. I can't go back to being small and careful. That person died the night Derek tried to drug me. Lucian studied her face. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm staying. Not because I have to, because I want to. Elena's voice was steady. We rebuild Noir Etoile, better than before. And I keep working with you, keep being part of this world, on my terms, as your equal, not your responsibility. Elena, I'm serious. If we're doing this, we're doing it right. I'm not some civilian you're protecting out of guilt. I'm someone who's proven I can handle this life, who's earned a place in it. Her grip on his hand tightened. Can you accept that? Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was small and genuine, and the first truly unguarded expression she'd seen from him. I don't know if I have a choice. You're the most stubborn person I've ever met. Good. Then we understand each other. He pulled her closer. She went willingly, exhaustion and relief and something deeper, all mixing together. They sat like that for a while, two people who'd survived something impossible and come out changed. Eventually, Sophia knocked on the door. Angela's here. Says it's important. Angela entered looking uncharacteristically excited. She was carrying architectural plans and a tablet. I have news. Good news for once. What kind of news? Lucien asked. I found a space for the new Noir Etoile. Better location. Better building. Better everything. Angela spread the plans across the coffee table. It's the old Beaumont Hotel in Midtown. Been vacant for 3 years. Owners desperate to sell. I can get it for half what it's worth. Elena leaned forward, studying the plans. The building was gorgeous, Art Deco architecture, high ceilings, massive windows. The ground floor was perfect for a restaurant. This is incredible. It gets better. The building's structurally sound, just needs cosmetic renovation. We could have it ready in 3 months, maybe 4, faster than rebuilding the Tribeca location from rubble. Angela looked at Elena. Assuming you want to try again. Elena looked at the plans, saw possibility instead of disaster, saw a second chance instead of failure. When can we start? Tomorrow if you want. I'll handle the purchase. You handle the design. We do this right. Angela's expression was almost kind. You've earned that much. After Angela left, Lucien and Elena sat with the architectural plans spread between them. The evening was settling over Manhattan, turning everything gold and shadow. We should celebrate, Lucien said. Tonight. Dinner somewhere nice. Pretend we're normal people for a few hours. Are we capable of normal? Probably not. But we can try. They went to a small Italian restaurant in the West Village. No security detail visible, though Elena knew they were there. No business talk, just food and wine and conversation about things that didn't involve violence or survival. Elena watched Lucien across the table, saw the way he relaxed slightly in the warm lighting, the way his guard dropped when discussing his sister's favorite books or his mother's recipe for osso buco. This man had killed people, ran an empire built on shadows, but he was also someone who remembered details about dead family members and got passionate about proper pasta preparation. What are you thinking? He asked. That you're more complicated than I expected. Is that good or bad? I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. Lucien smiled. I'll hold you to that. They walked home through quiet streets. Elena's hand found Lucien's without planning to. He didn't pull away. They moved through the city like any other couple, except for the armed security following at a discreet distance and the weight of everything they'd survived together. Back at the penthouse, Elena stood at the windows looking out at Manhattan, the city that had nearly killed her, the city that had also transformed her into something stronger. I need to tell you something, Lucien said from behind her. Elena turned. His expression was serious, almost nervous. When I first saw you at the Sapphire Room, watching Derek slip drugs into your drink, I could have just called the police, could have intervened without getting personally involved. But I didn't. Lucian moved closer. I could tell myself it was about my sister, about preventing what happened to her from happening to someone else. But that's only part of the truth. What's the rest? The rest is that I saw you sitting there alone, celebrating your freedom, and something in me recognized something in you, a person trying to rebuild themselves, trying to be brave in a world that punishes bravery. He paused. I wanted to protect that. Protect you. Not because you were weak, because you deserved better than what Derek was about to do. Elena's chest tightened. Lucien, I'm not good at this. Emotions, vulnerability. I've spent 10 years building walls so thick nothing gets through. But you got through. He took her hands. You terrify me. Not because you're dangerous, because you make me want things I thought I'd given up on. Normal things. Partnership. Trust. Something that isn't just survival. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you, and I don't know what to do with that. His voice was rough. You can walk away right now. Take my offer to disappear. I won't stop you, won't resent you, but if you stay, you need to know it's not just about protection anymore. It's about something more complicated and probably more dangerous. Elena looked at him. This man who'd saved her life, put her in danger, trained her to fight, and stood beside her through impossible situations. She should be terrified, should run while she still could. Instead, she moved closer. I love you too, and I have no idea what to do with it either. That's a terrible plan. We're good at terrible plans. Lucian laughed. Then he kissed her. Not gentle, not tentative, like they'd both been waiting weeks for permission, and now it was finally here. When they finally broke apart, Elena's heart was racing and her mind was quiet for the first time in weeks. So what now? Now we figure it out as we go. Build the restaurant. Build whatever this is between us. Survive together instead of separately. That's still a terrible plan. Yeah, but it's ours. The next 3 months were chaos of a different kind. Elena threw herself into designing the new Noir Étoile with an intensity that surprised even her. She learned to navigate Lucian's world with increasing confidence, attended meetings with suppliers who were definitely moving more than just produce, made decisions about restaurant operations that sometimes involved considerations she'd never dealt with in design school. The new space came together beautifully. Elena kept the best elements from the original design but refined everything. The lighting was better, the flow was better, the entire aesthetic was more cohesive. She was learning from her mistakes, getting better at her craft. Anton agreed to return as head chef. His staff loyally followed. Word spread that the new Noir Étoile was going to be even better than the original. Reservations started filling up months in advance. Elena moved into a larger apartment in Lucian's building. Not his penthouse. They both agreed they needed separate spaces to maintain some semblance of independence, but close enough that the boundaries between them continued blurring in ways that felt natural rather than forced. She also continued training with Marco and Sophia. Hand-to-hand combat, firearms, situational awareness. Not because she expected to use it regularly, but because she refused to be helpless again. The training became meditation, a way to center herself, proof that she controlled her own body and choices. Derek's trial happened in week 8. Elena attended to give her victim impact statement. Saw him in prison orange, looking smaller and older than she remembered. He tried to catch her eye. She looked right through him. Whatever power he'd once held over her was completely gone. He pled guilty to attempted sexual assault and conspiracy charges. The judge gave him 14 years. Elena felt nothing watching him being led away. Not satisfaction, not vindication. Just relief that this particular chapter was finally closed. Victor remained in exile. Rumors suggested he'd moved to Serbia, or maybe Ukraine, living quietly on what money he'd managed to hide from Angela's financial warfare. Occasionally, Elena would get a text from an unknown number. Never threats, just observations. I see you're rebuilding. Moretti's protection won't last forever. You could have chosen differently. Elena never responded. Victor was yesterday's problem. She was focused on tomorrow. The new Noir Étoile's opening was scheduled for a Friday night in late spring. This time they kept it smaller, more intimate. Just 100 guests instead of 300. Better security, better planning, better everything. Elena stood in the completed restaurant the night before opening, doing her final walkthrough. The space was perfect, everything she'd envisioned brought to life. The restored chandeliers from the original location had been incorporated into the design as a deliberate callback, past and future existing together. Lucien found her standing in the middle of the dining room, just taking it all in. "You did it," he said. "We did it." Elena turned to him. "I couldn't have rebuilt without your support, your resources, your insane willingness to bet everything on my design instincts." "I didn't bet on your design instincts. I bet on you." He moved closer. "And I won. We both won. That's the difference." Opening night was flawless. The guests were carefully curated, food critics, industry professionals, a few council members as a diplomatic gesture. No drama, no threats, just a beautiful restaurant doing exactly what it was designed to do. Elena worked the room with practiced ease now, confident, poised. Every bit the creative director of a Manhattan hotspot. People who'd known her 6 months ago wouldn't have recognized this version of her. At midnight, after the last guests had left and the staff had finished closing procedures, Elena and Lucien stood alone in the empty restaurant. "We should go home," Lucien said. "In a minute. I just want to remember this." "Remember what?" "This moment. This feeling. Proof that we can build something good even after everything tried to destroy us." Elena looked around the space. 6 months ago, I was terrified of my own shadow. Now I'm standing in a restaurant I designed, in a life I chose, with someone I love. That's worth remembering. Luciger wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You're remarkable, you know that?" "I'm surviving. There's a difference." "No, you're thriving. Own it." Elena let herself sink into his embrace, let herself feel safe for the first time in months. "What happens next?" "Whatever we want. That's the beautiful thing about surviving. You get to choose what comes after." They stood like that for a while, surrounded by the beautiful space they'd built together, two people who'd found each other in violence and chosen to build something gentler. But underneath the peace, Elena knew the truth. This world they inhabited didn't offer happily ever afters, just temporary victories and the constant work of maintaining them. There would be other threats, other challenges, other impossible choices. The difference was she was ready now, ready to fight, ready to adapt, ready to protect what she'd built with the same ferocity that had nearly destroyed her. They left Noir Etoile as dawn was breaking. The city was waking up around them. Delivery trucks, early commuters, the endless churn of Manhattan continuing regardless of individual stories. Sophia was waiting outside with the car. Marco was coordinating something on his phone. Angela had texted about a supply chain issue that needed attention. Normal problems, business problems. The kind Elena was learning to handle with increasing competence. Life continued. Not the life Elena had imagined 6 months ago, not the safe, predictable existence she'd thought she wanted, but something more honest, more challenging, more real. That afternoon, Elena met with a young woman named Jessica Chen who'd contacted her through the restaurant's website. Jessica was a graphic designer trying to escape an abusive relationship. She'd read about Elena's story in a magazine profile, wanted advice. They met at a coffee shop. Elena recognized the fear in Jessica's eyes, the uncertainty, the desperate hope that someone might understand. "I don't know how you did it," Jessica said. "How you left. How you rebuilt. Everything I read makes it sound like you just made a decision and everything worked out." Elena laughed. "That's the sanitized version. The real version involves a lot of mistakes, a lot of fear, and more luck than anyone should reasonably expect." "But you got out." "I got out. With help. And resources most people don't have access to." Elena leaned forward. "Here's what I can tell you. Leaving is terrifying. Starting over is harder than you think. But staying in a situation that's slowly killing you is worse. You're already brave enough to be having this conversation. That's the first step." They talked for 2 hours. Elena gave Jessica contact information for resources, shelters, legal aid, support groups. She also gave Jessica her personal number. "If things get bad, if you need help immediately, call me." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." "Because 6 months ago, someone did the same thing for me, and it changed everything." Elena smiled. "Pay it forward. Help someone else when you're on the other side. Walking back to her apartment, Elena thought about how strange life was. 6 months ago, she'd been the one needing help. Now she was the one offering it. The cycle continuing. People helping people survive impossible situations. That evening, Elena and Lucien had dinner at his place. No work talk, no crisis management, just two people who'd survived hell together learning to exist in the quiet spaces between disasters. I met someone today, Elena said. Woman trying to leave an abusive relationship. Reminded me of where I was 6 months ago. Did you help her? I tried, gave her resources, my number if she needs immediate help. Elena paused. Made me realize how far I've come, how much I've changed. You were always strong. You just didn't know it yet. Maybe. Or maybe I had to break completely before I could rebuild into something better. Elena looked at him. Either way, I'm different now. Can't pretend otherwise. Is that bad? I don't think so. Harder, yes, more complicated, but also more honest, more real. She smiled. I like who I'm becoming, even if the journey to get here nearly killed me. Lucien took her hand. For what it's worth, I like who you're becoming, too. They stayed up late talking about the future, plans for expanding Noir Etoile, ideas for other projects, the possibility of Elena taking on more legitimate design clients now that her reputation was established, normal dreams built on abnormal foundations. Eventually, Elena went back to her own apartment. She stood at her windows looking out at the city, processing everything that had happened. 6 months. That's all it had been. 6 months since Derek had walked into the Sapphire Room. 6 months since Lucien had intervened. 6 months since her entire life had exploded and rebuilt itself into something unrecognizable. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Congratulations on the opening. Beautiful work. You've come far. V. Elena stared at the message. Victor. Still watching. Still present even in exile. A reminder that safety was always temporary. That the past never completely disappeared. She deleted the message. Then she blocked the number. Victor didn't get to live in her head anymore. Didn't get to claim space in her new life. She'd survived him. Survived Derek. Survived every threat and challenge and impossible choice. And she'd keep surviving. Keep adapting. Keep becoming stronger. That was the real victory. Not the restaurant. Not the relationship. Not even the fact that she was still alive. The victory was that she'd taken control of her own story. Refused to be a victim. Chosen to fight back even when fighting seemed impossible. She'd become someone she could respect. That was worth more than safety, worth more than peace, worth everything. 3 weeks later, Elena got a call from Jessica, the woman she'd met at the coffee shop. Jessica had left her boyfriend, moved into a shelter, started rebuilding. I wouldn't have done it without you, Jessica said. Knowing someone else had survived made it feel possible. You did the hard part yourself. I just showed you it could be done. Still. Thank you. I don't know how to repay that. You don't repay it. You survive. You thrive. And when someone else needs help, you're there for them. That's how this works. After hanging up, Elena felt something shift inside her. Purpose, maybe. Understanding that her experience hadn't just been about personal survival. It had equipped her to help others survive too. She mentioned it to Lucien that night over dinner. I've been thinking about starting something. A foundation, maybe, or a network. Something that helps women escape dangerous relationships. Uses my story to show it's possible. Lucien considered this. That would put you even more in the public eye. Make you more visible. More vulnerable. I know, but it also makes me more powerful. Harder to threaten. If I'm helping hundreds of women, attacking me means attacking all of them. That's a different calculation. Elena met his eyes. I'm tired of hiding from danger. I'd rather face it doing something meaningful. You're sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Lucien smiled. Then I'll help. Resources. Connections. Whatever you need. This has to be mine. Not yours. Not our organization's. Mine. Fair enough. But the offer stands when you need it. Elena started planning that night. Reached out to lawyers about setting up a nonprofit. Connected with existing organizations to understand what was already being done. Started sketching out what her foundation could offer that others didn't. It became her new obsession. Noir Etoile ran smoothly enough that she could dedicate time to this. And Lucien's world, while still dangerous, had settled into something more manageable. Fewer crises. More routine. 6 months after the new Noir Etoile opened, Elena held the first meeting of what she had named the Sophia Foundation, named after Lucien's sister, after the woman whose death had motivated him to save Elena, after everyone who hadn't survived their own Derek Holloway. 12 women attended that first meeting, all of them trying to escape dangerous relationships, all of them terrified and brave and desperately hoping someone could show them how. Elena stood in front of them and told her story, the real story. No sanitization, no soft edges, just the truth about fear and survival and the impossibility of doing it alone. "You're not alone," she said. "You're here. That means you're already fighting back. That means you're already strong enough to win. We just have to help each other get there." The foundation grew quickly. Word spread. More women reached out. Elena trained volunteers, developed protocols, built something that could help people beyond just her immediate reach. Lucien watched her work with something like awe. "You've built something good here. We've built something good. This doesn't exist without your support. This exists because you refuse to let your suffering be meaningless. That's all you." 1 year after the night at the Sapphire Room, Elena stood in Noir Etoile during dinner service, watching the restaurant operate at peak efficiency. Anton's food was getting rave reviews. The space was constantly full. They'd been profitable for 6 months. Everything was working. But more importantly, Elena had helped 37 women escape abusive relationships through the Sophia Foundation. 37 people who were rebuilding their lives the way she'd rebuilt hers. That mattered more than the restaurant, more than the success, more than anything. Lucien found her standing by the host stand, lost in thought. "What are you thinking about?" "I'm thinking about how strange it is that the worst night of my life led to the best things in my life." Elena turned to him. "If Derek hadn't tried to drug me, if you hadn't intervened, if I hadn't made every impossible choice that followed, none of this exists. Not the restaurant, not the foundation, not us." "So you're saying we should thank Derek?" "God, no. I'm saying that sometimes survival looks different than we expect. Sometimes it's not about returning to who you were before. It's about becoming someone new, someone stronger." Lucien pulled her close. "You're philosophical tonight." "I'm 1 year older and infinitely more tired." "Want to get out of here? Go somewhere quiet?" "Where did you have in mind?" "The Sapphire Room. I bought it, remember? Figured we should visit, see where it all started." They drove to the lounge together. It looked different now. Lucien had renovated it, updated the decor, hired new staff. But the bones were the same. The exposed brick, the warm lighting, the bar where Derek had slipped drugs into her drink. Elena sat at the same table where she'd been sitting that night. Lucien sat across from her in the chair Derek had occupied. "Weird, right?" Elena said. "Being back here. Necessary, maybe. Confronting where we came from." "I used to think about that night and feel terrified. Grateful that you saved me, but terrified about what almost happened." Elena looked around the lounge. "Now I think about it differently. That night was the first time in years I'd made a choice for myself. Coming here, celebrating my freedom, that choice led to everything else. Even the bad things? Especially the bad things. Because the bad things taught me I could survive, could fight back, could become someone I actually respect." She reached across the table, took his hand. "You saved my life that night, but I saved it again every day after. That's the part that matters." Lucien squeezed her hand. "You're right. About all of it. I know, I'm getting good at being right." They stayed at the Sapphire Room until closing, talking about the past year. The challenges, the victories, the ways they'd both changed. Eventually, they went home to Lucien's penthouse, fell asleep tangled together, exhausted and content. In the morning, Elena woke up early, slipped out of bed without waking Lucien, made coffee, stood at the windows watching Manhattan wake up. Her phone buzzed, text from Jessica, the woman she'd helped months ago. "I got a job. A real one. Marketing position at a tech startup. I start Monday. Thank you for showing me this was possible." Elena smiled, replied, "Congratulations, you earned that. Now go help someone else earn theirs." More messages came in throughout the morning. Other women from the foundation, updates about their lives, new jobs, new apartments, new relationships built on respect instead of control. Each one a small victory. Each one proving that survival was possible. Lucien emerged from the bedroom, drawn by the smell of coffee. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep, too much on my mind." "Good things or bad things?" "Good things, actually. The foundation's working. People are rebuilding their lives. It feels like something real, something that matters." Elena handed him a cup of coffee. "I've been thinking about expanding, opening chapters in other cities, helping more people." "That's ambitious." "I know, but I've learned that ambitious is just another word for refusing to accept limitations." She smiled. "You taught me that." "I taught you to be reckless." "Same thing." They spent the day together. No work, no crisis management, just two people who'd survived something impossible, enjoying the peace they'd earned. They walked through Central Park, had lunch at a place that didn't care who Lucien was or what he did, pretended to be normal for a few hours. That evening, they returned to Noir Étoile for dinner service. Elena had made it a habit to be present several nights a week, not micromanaging, just observing, making sure her vision was being executed properly. The restaurant was packed, every table full, the energy was perfect, sophisticated but warm, elegant but approachable. Everything Elena had wanted to create. Anton emerged from the kitchen, saw her, smiled. "You should try the new dish, black cod with miso glaze. Your input on the presentation made it perfect." "I'll trust your judgment." "No, seriously, try it. You earned this moment." Elena let herself be led to a quiet corner table. Lucien joined her. Anton brought out the dish personally, plated beautifully, the fish glistening under carefully positioned lighting. She took a bite. It was perfect. Complex? Balanced? Everything a signature dish should be. "This is what we built," she said quietly. "This moment, this experience, this proof that beauty can exist alongside everything ugly we've survived. And you're okay with that? The contrast, the complexity? I'm not just okay with it, I'm embracing it." Elena set down her fork. "I spent years trying to be simple, safe, uncomplicated. It made me small, made me vulnerable. Now I'm complex and difficult and unapologetically myself, and I'm happier than I've ever been." Lucien raised his glass. "To complexity. To survival. To us." They drank. Around them, the restaurant hummed with life and possibility. Outside, Manhattan continued its endless transformation. And inside, two people who'd found each other in darkness celebrated the light they'd managed to create. The foundation continued growing. Within 2 years, the Sophia Foundation had chapters in 12 cities, helped over 300 women escape dangerous relationships, provided resources, legal support, temporary housing, job placement assistance, everything Elena wished had existed when she'd been trying to leave Derek. She became a public figure, did interviews, spoke at conferences, told her story over and over, refining it each time, making sure people understood that survival wasn't about being perfect, it was about being persistent. Noir Étoile became one of Manhattan's most respected restaurants. Critics praised it consistently. Celebrities requested tables. It became a genuine success rather than just a front for Lucien's other businesses. And Elena and Lucien built something neither of them had expected. A partnership. A relationship that worked because they'd both seen each other at their worst and chosen to stay anyway. They never got married. Didn't need the formality. What they had was already more binding than any legal document. They'd survived wars together, built empires, protected each other against impossible odds. That was stronger than any wedding vow. 5 years after that night at the Sapphire Room, Elena stood on a stage at a conference about domestic violence prevention. She'd been invited to speak about the Foundation's work, about her personal story, about what survival actually looked like. "People ask me all the time if I regret it," she said into the microphone, looking out at an audience of 500 people. "If I regret not taking the easy way out, not running when I had the chance, not choosing safety over challenge." She paused. "The answer is no. I don't regret any of it, because every impossible choice I made led me to exactly where I needed to be. Strong, independent, helping others find the same strength I had to discover in myself." The audience applauded. Elena saw women crying, saw recognition in their eyes, saw people who understood exactly what she meant, because they'd lived it themselves. We don't survive alone, she continued. We survive because someone shows us it's possible, because someone reaches back and pulls us forward, because we refuse to let our suffering be meaningless. Her voice was steady, confident. You're here because you're already fighting, already surviving, already strong enough to win. We just have to help each other get there. More applause, more tears, more recognition. After the speech, dozens of people approached Elena, wanted to share their stories, wanted advice, wanted connection with someone who understood. Elena stayed for hours, listened to every story, offered what help she could. This was the real work. Not the speeches or the interviews or the Foundation's official programs. This moment-to-moment connection between survivors. Lucian was waiting when she finally made it back to the hotel. He'd watched the speech from the back of the room, kept his distance because this was her moment, her triumph. You were incredible, he said. I was honest. That's different. No, you were both. He pulled her close. I'm proud of you. For everything you've built. Everything you've become. I couldn't have done it without you. You could have, but I'm glad you didn't have to. They stood at the hotel window, looking out at whatever city they were in. Elena had lost track. Too many speeches, too many conferences, too many cities full of women who needed to hear that survival was possible. Do you ever think about that night? Lucian asked. About how different things could have been if I hadn't intervened? Sometimes. But I try not to. That version of events doesn't exist. This one does. And this one led to something good. Elena turned to face him. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. With exactly who I'm supposed to be with. Fighting exactly the battles I'm equipped to fight. That's enough. More than enough. They went home the next day. Back to Manhattan. Back to Noir Etoile and the Foundation and the life they'd built from violence and impossible choices. Elena walked through the city she'd once feared, head high, confident. She was no longer running from anything, no longer apologizing for existing, no longer small or careful or afraid. She'd become someone who saved lives, who built empires, who fought back when fighting back seemed impossible. She'd become exactly who she needed to be. And that was worth every impossible choice, every terrifying moment, every sacrifice. Because survival wasn't just about staying alive. It was about becoming someone worth being alive as. Elena Vale had done exactly that. And she wasn't finished yet. The city stretched out around her, full of danger and possibility and endless opportunities to prove that strength wasn't about never falling down. It was about getting back up, every single time, no matter what.